Chapter 727. This is Run. Yuan Yu and the other experts of the Beast King Island, who had been guarding the cold, ancient cave, were on high alert. The moment they sensed something, they were instantly killed by the explosion of the destruction flame talismans. Thousands of fire talismans followed after the explosion. In an instant, the entire Beast King Island was engulfed by the destructive flames, with the cold, ancient cave as the epicenter. Countless demonic beasts were affected and turned into ashes in an instant. Whoosh! After a long while, a flame soared into the sky from the raging flames. It was the skeleton ghost king. That was close. Qin Yu emerged from the ancient dragon seal after knowing that he had avoided a calamity. Looking at the destroyed Beast King Island, his eyes were filled with shock. If it wasn't for the skeleton ghost king, Qin Yu would be in danger even if he hid in the ancient dragon seal. Because even the yin-yang escape talisman couldn't avoid the fire talismans in time. Even though his cultivation has reached the quintessential saint realm, his soul sea is still sealed. The fire god palace is not to be underestimated. Qin Yu knew that the reason for this was that he had triggered the seal in Qi Li Wei's soul sea when he refined Qi Li Wei's soul sea. From the aura, he could tell that the one who had left the seal in Qi Li Wei's soul sea was obviously an almighty who was at the quintessential saint realm or even above the heavenly god realm. Qin Yu muttered to himself. He naturally wouldn't let go of the dragon in the fire god palace, but he had to be fully prepared if he wanted to go to the fire god palace. Otherwise, even with the skeleton ghost king around, he might be in a desperate situation. With that thought, Qin Yu grabbed the skeleton ghost king and flew away. The moment Qi Li Wei self-destructed, in a sea of fire far away from the Beast King Island, there was a huge fire god palace. It was like a divine beast standing in the sea of fire. Within the flame godly palace, there was a vast and mighty aura that spread out, suppressing all living beings. The fire god palace was the top overlord force in the fire domain, the fire god palace. Although the fire god palace had yet to unify the fire domain, there were no forces in the fire domain that dared to challenge the fire god palace. From this, one could see how powerful the fire field was. At this time, somewhere in the fire god palace, in an ancient tower that was burning with golden flames, a figure that was sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his eyes. Not only was that person burning with golden flames, even his eyes were in the shape of golden flames. Li Wei is dead? The soul seize restriction was also triggered. Does this mean that he has fallen to the point of having his soul searched? After sensing for a while, Su Jinwei's expression suddenly became extremely gloomy. His eyes burned with golden flames, and an intense killing intent filled the air. Man! Immediately, Su Jinwei let out a low shout. As the ancient pagoda opened, several figures hurriedly entered the ancient pagoda. Master! The weakest among them was at the heavenly venerate stage. However, compared to Qi Li Wei, who was at the intermediate quintessential saint stage, there was still a huge gap between them. Just a moment ago, your eldest senior brother's soul dissipated. Su Jinwei said in a deep voice. What? Eldest senior brother is dead? Master, is this for real? Who is it that dares to touch the people of the fire god palace? When a few of them heard this, they were extremely shocked and could not believe it. All of you shut up. Now, I want to know where your eldest senior brother went and what happened. Go and find out immediately. Su Jinwei said angrily. Master, I heard from eldest senior brother that he seemed to have something to do and went to Beast King Island. A disciple at the peak of the heavenly venerate stage quickly replied. Beast King Island. A fierce look appeared in Su Jinwei's eyes. He had heard of Beast King Island before. It was famous in the western part of the fire field. However, compared to Beast King Island, it could not be compared at all. Su Jinwei could even crush Beast King Island alone. Immediately, Su Jinwei's figure flashed and disappeared. He wanted to see who it was that dared to kill his disciple. At this time, on an isolated island in the fire field, Qin Yu was sitting cross-legged. Spiritual qi of heaven and earth surged around him like waves, crazily surging into his body. Beneath this lone island, there was an extremely large connate spirit vein. As such, it attracted many desolate beasts to reside here. After Qin Yu arrived, he asked the Skull Ghost King to kill all the wild beasts. He used a secret technique to extract the innate spiritual vein and cultivate crazily. The true origin in his body, which had reached the complete heavenly Yuan realm, became restless again. This was a sign that he was about to break through. However, the amount of spiritual qi of heaven and earth needed to break through to the heavenly wheel realm from the heavenly Yuan realm was extremely shocking. This was also the important reason why the increase of a martial artist cultivation would be extremely slow after reaching the 9th level of the heavenly law. This was because after reaching the 9th level of the heavenly law, the true origin would turn into heavenly Yuan and its quality would change. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth that was normally enough to allow a martial artist to break through to the 9th level of the heavenly law could only increase their cultivation. Fortunately, the innate spiritual vein under the isolated island was extremely large. Qin Yu estimated that it would not be difficult for him to break through to the heavenly wheel realm. While Qin Yu was cultivating, the dragon soul in the ancient seal of the divine dragon was also crazily absorbing dragon qi to consolidate its cultivation. This time, the dragon soul had not only regained its lost bloodline power, but had also refined Su Jing's void dark whale bloodline. This was a blessing in disguise. Not only had its foundation recovered, but the void dark whale bloodline had also deepened the dragon soul's understanding of the space Tao. As a result, its cultivation would also break through. While Qin Yu was cultivating on the isolated island, the news of the Beast King Island's complete destruction spread rapidly to the western part of the fire field and gradually spread to the entire fire field. After all, in the entire fire field, the Beast King Island was considered one of the top forces. Although it could not be compared to a giant like the Fire God Palace, it was not something an ordinary force could do to completely destroy it. Therefore, the destruction of the Beast King Island caused a huge commotion in the fire field. Boom! Time passed slowly. After more than 10 days, an extremely powerful and terrifying aura swept out from Qin Yu, who was sitting cross-legged. Qin Yu's cultivation had finally stepped into the heavenly wheel realm. Around him, the power of yin and yang surged, faintly condensing into a yin-yang wheel. Qin Yu was in the center of the yin-yang wheel. After about 7 minutes, the yin-yang wheel gradually disappeared. The surging aura on Qin Yu's body also calmed down. Initial heavenly wheel realm. Qin Yu opened his eyes and felt the majestic heavenly yuan in his body. A smile appeared on his face. Although there was only a fine line between the perfect heavenly yuan realm and the initial heavenly wheel realm, his cultivation had increased by more than a few levels. Naturally, Qin Yu's strength had also undergone an enormous change. Now, even with the Azure Dragon's help, Qin Yu was confident that he could fight a heavenly venerate head-on. Chapter 728. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure flashed, and the dragon's soul appeared beside Qin Yu. You have also made a breakthrough? Sensing Qin Yu's powerful aura, the dragon's soul could not hide the joy on its face. Just a moment ago, its cultivation had also made a breakthrough from the initial heavenly yuan realm to the middle heavenly yuan realm. It might even make a breakthrough to the late heavenly yuan realm at any time. The immortal ancient Shinran's bloodline talent was gradually awakening in the dragon's soul. It's time to make a trip to the Fire God Palace. Sensing the dragon soul's breakthrough, Qin Yu revealed a smile on his face. If they could successfully obtain the dragon race of the Fire God Palace, their cultivation would be greatly enhanced. Immediately, Qin Yu and the dragon soul left the isolated island and headed towards the Fire God Palace. After more than a month, Qin Yu and the dragon soul finally arrived at the Fire God Palace from the west of the Fire Domain. The Fire God Palace was located in the Fire God Ocean. Other than the people of the Fire God Palace, no one else could enter the Fire God Ocean. Qin Yu's original plan was to ambush 2 people of the Fire God Palace and disguise himself. However, after the ambush was successful, he realized that all the people of the Fire God Palace had the same forbidden curse in their soul seas. It was because of the forbidden curse that the people of the Fire God Palace could freely pass through the barrier of the Fire God Ocean. To avoid alerting the enemy, Qin did not disguise himself. After the Dragon's Soul entered the Dragon's Soul Ancient Seal, he used the Yin-Yang Escape Talisman to pass through the barrier of the Fire God Ocean. Although the restrictions of the Fire God Sea were rather strange, they were still quite powerful. However, it was not as good as the barrier of the Monster King's secret realm in the Fire Demon Mountain Range. It allowed Qin to enter the Fire God Ocean easily. After all, the Monster King's secret realm in the Fire Demon Mountain Range was set up by Huojiang, a subordinate of the Fire Emperor. After Huojiang passed away, his skeleton still retained the combat strength of a heavenly god. This was enough to show that Huojiang's combat strength was above the heavenly god realm. However, the moment they passed through the barrier and dive into the Fire God Sea, Qin, who was originally heading towards the Fire God Palace, and the Dragon Soul that had entered the ancient seal of the Dragon God both had a change in expression. They could clearly sense a vast dragon's might coming from the depths of the Fire God Sea. This made Qin and the Dragon Soul's eyes light up. It seemed like there was no need for them to take the risk and sneak into the Fire God Palace. That was because the dragon from the Fire God Palace was most likely hiding in the depths of the Fire God Sea. No wonder the Fire God Palace had sealed the entire sea of fire. It was because of this reason. Fire attribute dragons? This fire attribute fluctuation, is it fire? Qin carefully sensed, and countless information about the dragon race flashed through his mind. The information regarding the dragon clan was all obtained by Qin from the immortal King Zhanlong. After all, Qin was only familiar with the dragon clan that he had seen in the Heaven Domain. He had never heard of the dragon clan outside of the Heaven Realm. Anciently Fire Dragon. After a while, a dragon appeared in Qin's mind. In the Battle Dragon Immortal Emperor's Inheritance, only the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon had the Leaf Fire attribute. It was a dragon that was born in the ancient times, and it was considered to be one of the best among the fire attribute dragons. However, in terms of potential, the Golden Flame Heaven Incinerating Dragon that Qin had subdued was actually more powerful than the anciently Fire Dragon. This was because the Golden Flame Heaven Incinerating Dragon's Golden Flame Heaven Incinerating Dragon was able to suppress the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon's Leaf Fire superpower. However, the Golden Flame Heaven Incinerating Dragon was limited by its cultivation base, so it could not be used now. After deducing that it was the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon, Qin began to think of a way to deal with the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon. This was the territory of the Fire God Palace, so Qin had to end the battle quickly. If he attracted the attention of the experts of the Fire God Palace, it would be extremely troublesome and dangerous for Qin even if he had prepared many means. Soon, with the help of the Yin-Yang Escape Talisman, Qin easily dived into the depths of the Fire God Sea. The deeper he went, the stronger the aura of the dragon tribe. When that 10,000 feet long fire dragon appeared in his line of sight like an enormous mountain, Qin's deduction was verified. That dragon was indeed the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon. The flames burning all over the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon were the ancient Leaf Fire, and its power was terrifying. The magma flames in the Fire God Sea were all emitted by the ancient Leaf Fire Dragon. With such a fluctuation, it must be at least at the heavenly god realm. I'm afraid it will be difficult to get it. The voice of the dragon's soul came from the divine dragon ancient seal. When the dragon's soul spoke, there was an unconcealable excitement in its voice. If they could get their hands on a heavenly god realm dragon, it would be a great benefit to them. No matter how difficult it is, we have to do it. Qin's eyes were also flickering with light. It was not easy to find a dragon. Naturally, he would not give up just because it was difficult to get it. Without hesitation, Qin immediately made his move. Formation flags that were engraved with mysterious immortal runes scattered all over the Fire God Sea, forming a huge ancient formation. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. As soon as the ancient formation was established, the anciently Fire Dragon opened its eyes as if it was aware of something. Its faint golden eyes were engulfed in flames. The flames of the fire god sea began to boil. Why is the anciently fire dragon awake? In the fire god palace, a muscular man in armor who was sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his eyes. The bulky man's eyes flickered with astonishment. His figure disappeared with a flicker. Primordial Mongol godly formation. Meanwhile, Qin Yu in the fire god sea was aware of it. He immediately activated the ancient formation with a thought. Immediately, the runes on the ancient formation shuddered, and an ancient god that was a few hundred feet tall appeared. Its mighty divine aura suppressed the anciently fire dragon. The primordial Mongol godly formation was one of the ancient formations left behind by the immortal Emperor Zhanlong. It used the primordial immortal qi to summon an ancient god that could suppress ancient immortals. However, with Qin Yu's current cultivation, he could not even unleash a 10,000th of its power. Even so, it was considered a super-killing formation among the 9 layers of the heavenly path. Roar! The anciently fire dragon roared furiously when it sensed the threat of the ancient formation. With a sweep of the enormous dragon tail, the power of the entire fire god sea was drawn to attack the ancient god. Suppress! However, at this moment, Qin Yu and the dragon soul both executed their secret techniques. The inheritance of the immortal Emperor Zhanlong and the dragon soul bloodline of the immortal ancient Shunran suppressed the ancient leaf fire dragon. Immediately, the body of the ancient leaf fire dragon, which was attacking ferociously, shook violently. The dragon tribe bloodline in its body was suppressed to the extreme. The ancient leaf fire dragon's cultivation of the heaven god realm also dropped drastically. Rumble. The ancient god's aura surged as it punched the ancient leaf fire dragon's enormous dragon head with its fists. The moment they collided, 2 immortal seals appeared on the ancient leaf fire dragon's fists and imprinted themselves on its head. The ancient leaf fire dragon's bloodline, which was already suppressed by Qin Yu and the dragon's soul, was suppressed again. The 2 immortal seals gathered the primordial immortal qi and contained the supreme Tao of sealing. Moreover, they were seals that specifically targeted the dragon race. As a result, the ancient leaf fire dragon was sent deep into the fire god's sea by the ancient god. Qin Yu's eyes lit up when he saw that. He immediately flew toward the ancient leaf fire dragon. It was the best time to suppress the ancient leaf fire dragon. Chapter 729. War Dragon Celestial Seal. As Qin Yu flew toward the ancient leaf fire dragon, he made a series of hand seals with his hands. Mysterious and ancient blood runes condensed into a blood-red ancient seal. The ancient seal was surrounded by mysterious dragon runes, and it was filled with a supreme dragon aura. The War Dragon Celestial Seal was formed by Qin Yu's dragon bloodline, the vast dragon aura in the divine dragon ancient seal, and the inheritance of the War Dragon Celestial King. The Celestial Seal was not meant to suppress the dragon bloodline, but it was meant to suppress the dragon soul. Swoosh! In a flash, the War Dragon Celestial Seal broke through the air and hit the ancient leaf fire dragon that was blasted into the depths of the fire deity sea. Smoke rose from the sea as the ancient leaf fire dragon soul was suppressed by the War Dragon Celestial Seal. Qin Yu smiled when he saw that the War Dragon Celestial Seal was effective. Since the ancient leaf fire dragon's dragon bloodline and soul were suppressed, it meant that he could subdue the ancient leaf fire dragon. Fire god Burning Sky Array. However, right at this moment, a monstrous might that caused one's heart to palpitate abruptly descended upon them. In an instant, the magma flames in the fire deity sea became many times heavier, as if they were about to solidify. If one were to take a closer look, one would discover that there were many mysterious fire runes within the magma flames. Vaguely, the entire fire deity sea had turned into an incomparably huge ancient array. As the flames became heavier, the sea of fire began to boil violently, and the power of the magma flames soared. Even though Qin Yu had the golden flame, heavenly incinerating fire covering his body, he could not bear it for a while. Of course, The golden flame, heavenly incinerating dragon, was also devouring the essence of the flames as it endured the power of the magma flames. Have I been discovered? When Qin sensed that overflowing oppressive might, his expression changed slightly. He looked over and saw that the source of the terrifying aura was a burly man in armor. The aura that the burly man exuded was at least 10 times stronger than Su Jing and Qi Li Wei from the Beast King Island. The appearance of that person gave Qin an extremely dangerous feeling. This person's cultivation had definitely surpassed the Sky Saint stage. At the very least, he was at the Heavenly God stage, or even stronger. You're courting death. Shui Yu, who had sensed the abnormal awakening of the ancient leaf fire dragon, was enraged at the sight. He had never expected that someone, the absolute overlord of the fire field, would dare to sneak into the fire god palace and target the ancient leaf fire dragon. Looking at the scene before him, it was clear that the ancient leaf fire dragon had been completely suppressed. If he had arrived just a little later, the ancient leaf fire dragon might have been stolen by someone else. The murderous intent in Shui Yu's eyes intensified when he recalled that the ancient leaf fire dragon had nearly been stolen right under their noses. Boom! With a little hesitation, Shui Yu pointed his finger forward. The entire fire god sea, which had transformed into a huge ancient formation, gathered an unparalleled destructive force and pressed towards Qin from all directions. The might of the apocalyptic fire was so strong that it could easily crush a quintessential Saint Stage powerhouse. Dragon's soul. Qin Yu's face turned grave. Shui Yu's cultivation was far above his perception. If he was not careful, he might lose his life. However, seeing that the anciently fire dragon was about to be subdued, Qin Yu naturally could not give up just like that. Space-time turbulence. Hearing Qin Yu's words, the dragon's soul, which had been prepared, immediately performed its space-time superpower with all its might. With Qin Yu as the center, the space within a radius of a few hundred feet slowed down. Not only that, but after the space slowed down, it became chaotic. This was a new space-time superpower that the Dragon Soul had comprehended when the Realm Sea was swept into the space-time turbulence. The lava flames that were pressing towards Qin Yu were shattered by the distortion of space, which bought a lot of time for Qin Yu. Space-time power? Shui Yu's eyes flashed when he saw the space around Qin Yu distort and almost collapse. In the fire domain, cultivators who had comprehended the space-way were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. A cultivator who comprehended both space and time had never appeared before. It was no wonder that Qin Yu could enter the fire god sea silently. Of course, although he was surprised, Shui Yu's reaction was not slow at all. Destroy! He roared, and a golden halberd appeared in his hand. The halberd seemed to be made of gold, exuding an ancient and mysterious pressure. With a flash of golden light, Shui Yu held the halberd in his hand and pierced through the air. As the space rippled, the space-time turbulence that the Dragon Soul had cast was torn apart. In an instant, the golden halberd appeared in front of Qin Yu, wanting to completely annihilate Qin Yu. Swoosh! At this critical moment, Qin Yu was not flustered at all. Space-time power surged on his body, and in an instant, he teleported away and avoided the attack of the golden halberd. This was the teleportation technique that Qin Yu had prepared before he came. After the teleportation, Qin Yu appeared on the head of the ancient leaf fire dragon. He attacked again, trying to keep the ancient leaf fire dragon into the ancient dragon seal. Roar! However, the ancient leaf fire dragon was a heavenly god. Even if its bloodline and dragon soul were suppressed, it was still not easy to subdue it. It kept struggling, and the leaf fire that could burn everything rose, as if it wanted to annihilate Qin Yu. Fire God Halberd. Shui Yu, whose attack was dodged by Qin Yu, twitched his face, and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. Dazzling fire runes appeared on his armor, and the fire runes spread to the golden halberd. The two of them seemed to have merged into one. The earth-shattering power directly suppressed the space around him, causing it to solidify. This space will collapse. We can't hold on. We have to retreat. Sensing the terrifying power that Shui Yu exuded, the dragon soul's face changed. It used all of its space-time superpower and said to Qin Yu, if the space collapsed, the teleportation technique that they had prepared so carefully would be useless. Damn it, I was so close. Qin Yu felt a chill run down his spine, but he was still unwilling to give up. Immediately, Qin Yu formed a seal with his hands and slapped the anciently fire dragon. In an instant, a large amount of dragon blood was extracted from the anciently fire dragon's body. Even if he could not take the entire anciently fire dragon, he had to collect some interest. He could not leave empty-handed. Die. Seeing Qin Yu's action, Shui Yu, who was filled with killing intent, thrust his halberd forward. A cracking sound rang out. Just as the dragon soul had sensed, the space where the golden halberd passed immediately shattered. Swoosh! However, just as the space cracks were about to spread to Qin Yu, a flame flickered, and a skeleton appeared and punched the golden halberd. The two of them exploded with the sound of metal colliding, and rings of destructive force spread out. It was the skeleton Ghost King who had appeared to help. Let's go. Qin Yu, who had captured a lot of the anciently fire dragon's bloodline, took out a teleportation talisman. Teleportation runes appeared on him and the skeleton Ghost King, and they were about to be teleported away. Chapter 730. Stay here, Fire Divine Boundary. Shui Yu's face was dark, and he would not let Qin Yu and the Dragon God King escape. He pointed the golden halberd in his hand towards the sky, and a pillar of fire shot up into the sky. Immediately, the entire fire god sea started to spin with Shui Yu as the center and turned into a huge flaming whirlpool world. In this whirlpool world, Qin Yu's teleportation talisman and the Dragon Soul's space-time superpower were met with great resistance. It was as if this flaming world was completely isolated from the outside world. Shoo! 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 Just as Shui Yu was using a secret technique to isolate the flaming world, figures with shocking auras emerged from the golden halberd. Teleportation array. Qin Yu looked at the golden halberd and realized that there were several teleportation talismans on it. It was obvious that Shui Yu had teleported all the experts from the Fire God Palace over. The continuous stream of experts from the Fire God Palace had pushed Qin Yu into a desperate situation. Give me the Dragon Mark sword. At this crucial moment, the skeleton Ghost King's voice suddenly appeared in Qin Yu's mind. Qin Yu was surprised. This was the first time the skeleton Ghost King had a consciousness after he had signed a contract with it. However, Qin Yu did not hesitate and flicked his finger. The Dragon Mark ancient sword that he had obtained from the Fey King's secret realm that had merged with the dragon bloodshot towards the skeleton Ghost King. Whoosh! The moment the skeleton Ghost King held the Dragon Mark ancient sword, it turned into a ray of light and appeared in front of Shui Yu in an instant. Vaguely, a majestic dragon aura was emitted. A sword ray that was dozens of feet long tore through the void and slashed at the pillar of fire. Rumble! A deafening explosion resounded and cracks that were dozens of feet long appeared on the pillar of fire. The time and space in this flaming world started to flow again. Run! The skeleton Ghost King's consciousness immediately appeared in Qin Yu's mind. You're courting death. Just as the skeleton Ghost King's thoughts were transmitted over, Shui Yu, whose eyes were filled with malevolent killing intent, pounced towards the skeleton Ghost King and blocked its attack. As the might of the sword glow gradually dissipated, the cracks on the fire pillar that soared into the sky also rapidly healed. Whoosh! However, Qin Yu had seized this opportunity. As his spatial energy vibrated, he instantly teleported away. Damn it! Seeing Qin Yu disappear, Shui Yu became even more furious, and his killing intent surged. As the peak overlord of the fire field, someone had captured the dragon blood of the anciently fire dragon right under their noses and escaped unscathed. This naturally infuriated Shui Yu and the people from the Fire God Palace. They rushed out of the whirlpool in the Fire God Sea and attacked the skeleton Ghost King. Boom! At this moment, in the depths of the Fire God Palace, there was a huge spatial crack. A huge flaming hand that covered the sky grabbed towards the horizon. Patriarch, seeing the huge flaming hand that covered the sky, Shui Yu and the experts from the Fire God Palace were pleasantly surprised. It seemed like the Patriarch, who was in seclusion, had sensed the accident in the Fire God Sea and had taken action personally. This made them feel relieved. Since the Patriarch had taken action personally, Qin Yu would have nowhere to run. With the appearance of the flaming hand, the entire Fire God Palace was alarmed, and countless experts were in a heated discussion. At this moment, on a lone peak a few thousand miles away from the Fire God Palace, the void trembled slightly, and mysterious runes spread out, forming a teleportation ancient array. A figure appeared from the teleportation ancient array. It was Qin Yu, who had escaped using the teleportation ancient array. The moment Qin Yu came out of the teleportation ancient array, he immediately cast a secret summoning skill. Unfortunately, no matter how many times he cast it, the secret summoning skill did not respond. This made Qin Yu's face turn pale. However, he did not give up. He immediately drew out a trace of Origin Soul energy and inserted it into the contract mark he had signed with the Skeleton Ghost King. You can't summon the Skeleton Ghost King. The Dragon Soul came out of the ancient dragon seal and saw Qin Yu's expression. It immediately understood. The Skeleton Ghost King was different from the dragon tribe. It was a contracted living being, and Qin Yu could summon it directly. It seems like the Fire God Sea has the ability to isolate time and space. Qin Yu took a deep breath and quickly calmed himself down. Although he had captured many ancient fire dragons' bloodline in the Fire God Sea, he had lost the Skeleton Ghost King, who had the combat strength of a heavenly god. It was a great loss. This also allowed Qin Yu to have a deep understanding of the background of the powers of the outer regions. Even if he had obtained the inheritance of the Battle Dragon Immortal King, and the Dragon Soul had the ability to control time and space, he had to be careful. If the Skeleton Ghost King had not held back the people of the Fire God Palace, Qin Yu would not have been able to escape. We have to think of a way to get the Skeleton Ghost King back. The Dragon Soul said. Currently, the Skeleton Ghost King was their biggest trump card, and they could not just leave it in the Fire God Palace. We have to think of a long-term plan for this matter. Qin Yu naturally wanted to get the Skeleton Ghost King back. However, they had just wreaked havoc in the Fire God Palace. If they were to sneak into the Fire God Palace now, it would be no different than walking into a trap. As for the safety of the Skeleton Ghost King, Qin Yu was not too worried. The Skeleton Ghost King was a spiritual body, and as long as it hid in the skeleton, it would not be in danger, unless the people of the Fire God Palace destroyed the skeleton. However, even the Fire God Palace would not easily destroy a heavenly god skeleton. It was highly possible that they would subdue the Skeleton Ghost King and use it for the Fire God Palace, or even lure them over. Of course, even if the Fire God Palace destroyed the heavenly god skeleton, the Skeleton Ghost King would not be completely destroyed. The secret skill that Qin Yu used was to deal with the annihilation of the Skeleton Ghost King. If the Skeleton Ghost King's spiritual body was really destroyed, it could use the Origin Soul energy that Qin Yu had injected into the seal to reform it. However, the Skeleton Ghost King would have to cultivate from the beginning. As soon as Qin Yu's words left his mouth, his face changed. He and the Dragon Soul quickly turned their heads and saw a giant flaming hand rolling out from the void in the distance. Half of the sky was burned red by the giant flaming hand. Even though they were far away, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul could still sense it. The destructive power that was hidden in the flaming hand sent chills down Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul's spines. They felt that they were invincible. There was such a terrifying existence hidden in the Fire God Palace. Teleportation Talisman, Divine Travel Talisman, Yin-Yang Escape Talisman. Without any hesitation, 3 ancient talismans appeared in Qin Yu's hand, and the Dragon Soul immediately returned to the Divine Dragon Ancient Seal. As the space shook, Qin Yu disappeared. When Qin Yu reappeared, he was already tens of thousands of miles away. After reappearing, Qin Yu activated the power of the 3 ancient talismans again. Just like that, he shuttled back and forth a few times until he was hundreds of thousands of miles away. Only then did he stop with a pale face. The spatial power of the teleportation talisman, the extreme speed of the divine travel talisman, and the yin-yang escape talisman were the greatest power that Qin Yu could unleash. Fortunately, Qin Yu's cultivation had reached the early heavenly wheel realm. If he was still at the heavenly yuan realm, his cultivation would have been exhausted and he would have suffered a backlash. Chapter 731. Seeing Qin Yu stop, the dragon soul in the divine dragon ancient seal immediately performed a secret skill. Pure dragon aura surged into Qin Yu's body to replenish his cultivation and physical strength. Qin Yu immediately sat down cross-legged and formed a seal with his hands to recover his cultivation. However, after merely several tens of breaths, before Qin Yu had the time to recover his cultivation, he once again sensed that the terrifying might of the huge flaming hand was coming at them. It caught up with us so quickly. What cultivation realm is that person at? Qin Yu was shocked. He could not care less about recovering his cultivation. After swallowing more than a dozen rare high-grade elixirs, he used the 3 ancient talismans to escape. However, after escaping for hundreds of thousands of miles, Qin Yu still felt that he was locked on by the giant flaming hand. It seemed that no matter where he escaped, the giant flaming hand would be able to lock onto him. This made Qin Yu even more shocked. He did not know what cultivation realm was required to be able to sense such a long distance. It seems that the giant flaming hand has some secret skill that can sense and lock onto us. We can't stay in the fire domain any longer. Sensing that Qin Yu's cultivation and physical strength were getting weaker, the dragon's soul spoke solemnly. If this continued, Qin Yu would be exhausted to death. However, the power of the giant flaming hand did not weaken at all. That's the only way. Before sneaking into the Fire God Palace, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul had come up with several escape plans. One of them was to leave the fire domain. This was their last resort. After all, the Fire God Palace was the overlord of the fire domain. Once the capture of the anciently fire dragon was exposed, it would be difficult for Qin Yu to fight against them alone. Although the anciently fire dragon had yet to be captured, Qin Yu had no choice but to retreat. Earlier on, Qin Yu had already escaped in the direction of the fire domain's boundary sea. Hence, after about a day and a night, Qin Yu arrived at the boundary sea that led to the fire domain's boundary sea. It was an incomparably pitch-black region. It was incomparably deep, as if it could devour everything. Any martial realm that led to the outer realm sea would not be safe. The more powerful the martial field was, the more dangerous the passage to the outer realm sea would be. Of course, that didn't exclude those who had safe and unobstructed portals to other realms. In the history of the Ten Directions world, there had been a situation where all the martial fields of a great world were unified. Whoosh! When he arrived at the black hole area, Qin Yu paused for a moment. After making preparations, he immediately rushed in and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! After a few breaths of time, the giant flaming hand arrived. However, it stopped outside the black hole and did not chase in. As the flames gradually receded, a human figure appeared in the giant flame hand. It was an old man. His hair, eyebrows, and beard all seemed to be formed from flames. "Are you from the outer realm?" That flame old man muttered to himself as he looked at Qin Yu, who had disappeared into the black hole. The old man was very interested in Qin Yu, who he had chased for so long but failed to catch up to in the end. He could sense that Qin Yu's cultivation was not very strong. The reason he could escape so quickly was definitely because he relied on the treasures on him. Unfortunately, now that Xiao Chan had escaped into the black hole, it was basically impossible to catch up to him. Even with his cultivation, he could not track down Qin Yu in this black hole area. After a long period of darkness, Qin Yu, who was in extreme pain, slowly woke up. When he opened his eyes, a blue sky appeared. He's awake. Sensing that Qin Yu had woken up, the dragon's soul immediately came over. "Where is this place?" After lying on the ground for a while, Qin Yu, who felt that his body had recovered significantly, half sat up and looked around. This was the peak of a mountain, and he was sitting on a huge rock. The huge rock was engraved with runes. Surging spiritual energy of heaven and earth was forcibly pulled over and poured into his body to heal his injuries. I don't know. The dragon's soul shook its head slightly. After escaping the fire domain and entering the black hole area, they had been attacked by strange demonic creatures. Qin Yu had consumed his origin source and forcibly used the secret technique of immortal King Zhanlong. The dragon's soul had used space-time divine ability to interfere with space to escape. However, the consequence of using space-time divine ability in the black hole area was that it caused space to directly collapse, and spatial turbulence appeared again. Fortunately, the dragon's soul had already grasped the rules of space-time turbulence, so it brought the unconscious Qin Yu, who was severely injured, away safely. However, they did not go to the Realm Sea, but came to this unfamiliar martial domain. Although they did not know where this place was, they had definitely left the fire domain because the pressure of this martial domain was very different from that of the fire domain. It had been 5 days and 5 nights since Qin Yu had been unconscious. It could be seen how much Qin Yu's cultivation and physical strength had been overdrawn when he was being chased in the fire domain. Otherwise, with the physical strength of Qin Yu's divine dragon tyrannical body, it was impossible for him to be unconscious for so long. However, I have a feeling that this place is not like the martial domain, but more like a secret space. The dragon's soul quickly said. With the dragon soul's understanding of space-time power, it could naturally sense that the strength of the space and the pressure in this area was different from the martial domain. It was like a small water bottle in a lake. No matter where this place is, let's refine the dragon blood and recover our cultivation first. Qin Yu sat cross-legged and circulated the immemorial battle dragon art. The dragon soul immediately entered the ancient seal of the divine dragon. With a thought from Qin Yu, the power of the bloodline that was restrained from the anciently fire dragon appeared. With the refinement of the dragon blood, a vast and majestic dragon Qi instantly covered the entire ancient seal of the divine dragon. As expected of a dragon who has reached the heavenly god realm, feeling the vast and pure dragon Qi, Qin Yu and the dragon soul were overjoyed. It seemed that sneaking into the fire god palace was not a bad idea. With such a pure dragon Qi, their cultivation would be greatly improved. With the circulation of the immemorial battle dragon art, Qin Yu's cultivation, which had fallen to the heavenly Yuan realm, skyrocketed. Soon, it was the initial heavenly Yuan realm, middle heavenly Yuan realm, late heavenly Yuan realm, complete heavenly Yuan realm. After a few days, Qin Yu's cultivation broke through again. Initial heavenly wheel realm, middle heavenly wheel realm, late heavenly wheel realm. Finally, Qin Yu stepped into the complete heavenly wheel realm. The dragon soul was even more ferocious. From the heavenly Yuan realm, it soared all the way to the calamity realm. The increase in speed was even more terrifying than Qin Yu's. Qin Yu could clearly feel that the dragon soul's cultivation had not only increased, but even the immortal ancient Shenron bloodline in its body had also reached a new stage. Other than Qin Yu and the dragon soul, the chaotic ancestor dragon, golden flame heaven incinerating dragon, and purple lightning heaven dragon had also broken through. The chaotic ancestor dragon's cultivation had reached the complete heavenly Yuan realm after being strengthened by the divine demon force in the sky region. The golden flame heaven incinerating dragon and purple lightning heaven dragon had also stepped into the initial heavenly Yuan realm. However, the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon's cultivation was stronger than the purple lightning heaven dragon. After all, the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon had refined a lot of divine fire energy in the fire region. In addition, the bloodline of the ancient leaf fire dragon belonged to the fire dragon tribe. It was compatible with the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon. Chapter 732. Since you can already transform, you should have your own name, right? Qin Yu asked as he looked at the primal chaos ancestral dragon. who had transformed into a youth just like the dragon's soul. The golden flame heaven-burning dragon and the purple thunder divine firmament dragon both had their own unique names after transforming. For example, the golden flame heaven-burning dragon was called Fun Yu, and the purple thunder divine firmament dragon was called Lei Quan. They seem to have used their own attributes as their surnames. It seemed that the primal chaos ancestral dragon also had the surname Primal Chaos. Long Yuan. However, to Qin Yu's surprise, the primal chaos ancestral dragon was actually named after a dragon. From this point, it was enough to see that Long Yuan, who possessed the bloodline of the primal chaos ancestral dragon, was stronger than Fun Yu and Lei Quan. You should have seen my previous experience. The outer realm is countless times more dangerous than the heavenly realm. Although you have already broken through the shackles and stepped into the 9th level of the heavenly Tao, looking at the current situation, I still think that you should cultivate the primal chaos ancestral dragon first. But I think you should stay in the chaos dragon world or the dragon god ancient seal to cultivate. Of course, what you want to do is up to you. Looking at Long Yuan, Fun Yu, Lei Quan, and Qin Yu said, Qin Yu did not need to worry about Long Yuan and the other two, who had already been branded in the origin dragon soul, betraying him. Thus, he did not treat them as followers. Of course, compared to the dragon soul that had experienced life and death, the treatment was still very different. As for Qin Yu, he also had his own selfish motives in doing so. His goal was to create the eternal dragon nation. In the future, there would definitely be more and more dragons. Therefore, Qin Yu also needed the Dragon Clan to help him share the burden of commanding the Dragon Clan. Long Yuan and the other two were quite suitable. I'll stay in the outside world. While Fun Yu and Lei Quan were deep in thought, the somewhat cold Long Yuan spoke directly. With his arrogant personality, he was naturally unwilling to be trapped in the primal chaos dragon world. In the past, Qin Yu did not give him a choice, so he had no choice but to stay in the Dragon Soul's primal chaos dragon world. Qin Yu nodded. Long Yuan's origin source ability was the primal chaos killing technique. If it was used by his true body, its power would probably be even stronger, and it would be of great use. As for Fun Yu and Lei Quan, after seeing Qin Yu being chased by such a terrifying existence in the fire domain, they still felt that it was better to stay in the primal chaos dragon realm and cultivate. Furthermore, now that Qin Yu had allowed them to enter the dragon god's ancient seal, their cultivation speed would probably be even faster. After all, who knew what crazy things Qin Yu would do in order to capture the foreign dragons? It was better to make the best use of his time and improve his cultivation. Someone's coming. At this time, the dragon's soul, whose cultivation had reached the calamity state, was slightly moved. Then, Qin Yu and Long Yuan also sensed it. Fun Yu and Lei Quan immediately entered the primal chaos dragon world. Qin Yu and the other two retracted their auras and stayed where they were. It didn't take long for two figures to climb up the mountain. When they saw Qin Yu and the other two, the two of them were obviously stunned. The two of them wore fiery red battle armor and wore claws that flickered with a cold light. They didn't look very old and were in the prime of their youth. However, their cultivation was quite strong, and they had both reached the calamity state. Big brother, could it be that someone beat us to it? After Jiao Junhua's gaze swept across the mountain, it once again landed on Qin Yu and the other two. He transmitted his voice to his big brother, Jiao Zhengtian, with a fierce light in his eyes. Don't cause trouble. If someone beat us to it, it means that we are not fated to get the treasure. Jiao Zhengtian's expression was gentle as he suppressed Jiao Junhua's killing intent. Of course, this was also because Jiao Zhengtian sensed an extremely dangerous fluctuation from Qin Yu and the other two. In a world of cultivators, the strong were respected. Furthermore, the Fire WRM tribe had many opponents in this trial secret realm, and they couldn't easily make enemies. However, as he was sizing them up, Jiao Zhengtian saw the extremely unfamiliar faces of Qin Yu and his brothers. A strange feeling emerged in his heart. Logically speaking, the young geniuses that he could sense danger from in this trial secret realm shouldn't be nameless. Why hadn't he seen the three of them before? I'm Jiao Jingtian from the Fire WYRM tribe. How should I address the three of you? Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Jiao Jingtian's face. He clasped his fist and said to Qin Yu, "They're indeed from the Fiend race. If they're from the Fire WYRM tribe, they should have the Dragon race's bloodline in their bodies. It looks like they came because they sensed the draconic aura." Many thoughts flashed through the minds of Qin Yu and the other two when they heard Jiao Jingtian's words. Qin Yu and the other two had guessed correctly. Jiao Jingtian and the other two had rushed over because they sensed the pure draconic aura. I'm Qin Tian. Greetings, brother. Originally, Qin Yu had wanted to kill Jiao Junhua and search his soul for information when he saw the ferocious glint in Jiao Junhua's eyes. However, when he saw that Jiao Jingtian seemed to want to befriend him, Qin Yu smiled as he took a step forward and cupped his fists. If he could obtain information peacefully, Qin Yu wouldn't have to resort to violence. After all, killing Jiao Junhua and the other two wouldn't do him any good. Jiao Junhua couldn't help but be surprised when he heard Qin Yu's words. However, Jiao Jingtian's heart skipped a beat. "Brother Qin, may I know which clan you're from?" Jiao Jingtian immediately asked for more information. The factions in the Void Domain were divided by clans. The various clans occupied the rich lands. For example, the Fire WYRM tribe occupied the Volcano Islands. Of course, there were still independent cultivators scattered around the various clans. However, their strength was on a completely different level compared to the various clans. Thus, when Jiao Jingtian saw that Qin Yu had directly announced his name without mentioning his clan, he immediately realized that it was very likely that Qin Yu and his two companions were not from a major clan. Instead, they were the elites of those loose cultivators. If that was the case, it would be great news for Jiao Jingtian and the other two. The three of us are just independent cultivators. Qin Yu didn't know the current situation, so he didn't mention which clan they were from. After all, independent cultivators should exist in every martial world. Brother Qin, you're able to cultivate to such a level despite being an independent cultivator. It shows how talented you are. Jiao Jingtian's smile widened when he heard Qin Tian's words. "You're too kind. Brother Jiao and the other two are both in the Calamity Realm. They're much stronger than the three of us." Qin Yu replied courteously. He was sure that Jiao Jingtian wanted to befriend them. However, he didn't know if he had any ulterior motives. "Brother Qin, the trial in the Holy World is filled with danger. The various clans are working together to hunt down the other participants. Why don't we form an alliance as well?" Jiao Jingtian suggested. "Brother Jiao and the other two, you want to form an alliance with us? Did you discover a treasure in the Holy World? Or did you encounter danger?" Qin Yu asked directly. "Brother Qin, you're a straightforward person. Then I won't beat around the bush. Since we've discovered a treasure, we're being targeted by the Dark Thunder Clan." Jiao Jingtian smiled and said. As he spoke, he carefully observed the expressions of Qin Yu and the other two. If Qin Yu and the other two revealed a look of fear or surprise, there was no need for them to form an alliance to avoid betrayal. However, if they weren't afraid of the Dark Thunder Clan and didn't have any relationship with the Dark Thunder Clan, it was worth forming an alliance with them. In this dangerous trial, the more friends they had, the more strength they would have. Chapter 733. Brother Jiao, are you saying that the Dark Thunder Clan will target us if we join hands to obtain the treasure? Qin Yu and the other two didn't know what kind of power the Dark Thunder Clan was. Naturally, they weren't afraid of them. On the contrary, Qin Yu was rather curious about the treasure that Jiao Jingtian mentioned. If it could tempt Jiao Jingtian and the other two Calamity Realm experts, it would definitely be useful to them. Qin Yu, however, felt that this was an opportunity. After being hunted down by the Blaze Domain, he was eager to raise his cultivation. That's right. After all, we've risked our lives to enter the Saint's world to train. We've come for the Saint Tier treasures. Now that the Dark Thunder clan knows about it, they definitely won't miss it. If Brother Qin is afraid of the Dark Thunder clan, just pretend that I didn't mention it. Jiao Jingtian nodded. Haha, the power of the Dark Thunder clan is indeed not to be underestimated. However, the three of us are rogue cultivators. We really don't put the Dark Thunder clan in our eyes. I wonder if the treasure that Brother Jiao mentioned is worth the risk for the three of us? Qin Yu smiled casually. Although itinerant cultivators did not have a strong backer as their foundation, they were free and unrestrained. Compared to those forces with families and families, they could act more unscrupulously. If they couldn't defeat them, they could just run away. Brother Qin is really domineering. It looks like I didn't misjudge you. As for the treasure, it definitely won't disappoint the three of you. Even if there are a few more people, the treasure will be enough to split. Jiao Jingtian's eyes lit up as he laughed. With the addition of Qin Yu and the other two, they wouldn't be so weak anymore. Of course, it would be even better if they could invite more independent cultivators to join them. After all, independent cultivators who were qualified to join the Holy World were naturally not ordinary people. What a pity. The three of us are used to being alone. We don't have many friends. We don't know anyone in this holy world. Qin Yu said slowly. It's fine. With the three of you helping us, the treasure will be easy to obtain. Jiao Jingtian wasn't disappointed. Instead, the smile on his face grew wider. Immediately, the two sides formed an alliance. Without any hesitation, they headed straight for the location of the treasure. This was because an extremely terrifying pressure existed in the secret realm of the Saint's world. Jiao Jingtian, Jiao Junhua, and Long Hun, who had reached the Calamity Realm and could fly, could only run on foot. Fortunately, their cultivations were not weak. Their speed was as fast as an arrow, and traveling 1,000 miles in a day was a piece of cake. At night, the five of them set up a formation around them and sat cross-legged, absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to cultivate. At night, the Saint's world was even more dangerous than during the day. This was because when night fell, a cultivator's perception would be suppressed to an extremely terrifying level. Just an hour ago, they were ambushed. Fortunately, the five of them had extraordinary battle prowess. Not only did they avoid the danger, but they also killed all the ambushers. The ambush this time around had allowed Qin Yu and his two companions to completely understand the martial region they were in. The Void Realm was also the martial realm of the Great Spirit World. Its overall strength was far superior to the Fire Realm. This was evident from the fact that there were several large clans in the Void Realm that were on par with the Fire God Palace of the Fire Realm. The Fire WRM clan that Jiao Jingtian and Long Han belonged to could only be considered a mid-tier clan in the Fire Realm. As for the Dark Thunder clan that might be searching for them, they were a mid-tier clan. The territory they occupied was much larger than the Fire WYRM clan's volcanic islands. The Saint's world was located in the southwest region of the Void Realm. It was a secret realm that had existed since ancient times. It was rumored that it was a treasure trove left behind by an invincible saint beast in ancient times. After the appearance of the Saint's world, there were indeed countless cultivators who obtained supreme treasures or extraordinary fortuitous encounters. As a result, every time it appeared, countless clans in the Void Realm would fight for a spot in the Saint's world. In the end, the large clans of the Void Realm made a rule that only the young geniuses were qualified to compete for a spot in the Saint's world. Only then did the chaos caused by the appearance of the Saint's world gradually calm down. After finding out that they were still in the Great Spirit World, Qin Yu was also relieved. If they were in a great world, it would be much more convenient for him to go to the Fire Realm in the future. Of course, before he was strong enough, Qin Yu wouldn't enter the Fire Realm easily. The mysterious existence in the Fire God Palace should have some kind of secret art or treasure that could detect the entire Fire Realm. If Qin Yu and the others returned rashly, it would be difficult for them to escape. After passing through the night sky that was 3 times longer than the Heaven Realm, the blazing sun slowly rose into the sky. Whether it was day or night, the Void Realm was 3 times longer than the Heaven Realm. In other words, 1 day and 1 night in the Void Realm was equivalent to 3 days and 3 nights in the Heaven Realm. Just as Qin Yu and the others dispersed the barrier around them and prepared to continue their journey, the Dragon Soul's expression changed slightly. Jiao Jingtian, Jiao Junhua, Qin Yu, and Long Yuan sensed it as well. Someone's after us again? Jiao Junhua's eyes flashed fiercely. Compared to the mild-mannered Jiao Jingtian, Jiao Junhua hadn't completely tamed the killing intent in his bloodline. He would attack at the slightest disagreement. Of course, Jiao Jingtian might be mild-mannered, but that was only because he was calm. He wasn't a nice guy who didn't kill. If he wanted to kill, he would be even more bloodthirsty than Jiao Junhua. Looking at the fluctuations, it should be the desolate beasts. There are many of them, and they're surrounding us. Jiao Zhongtian's expression turned solemn after he sensed the fluctuations. The most dangerous things in the Saints' world were naturally the desolate beasts. Those desolate beasts lived in the sacred world. Although they didn't have intelligence, their strength was terrifying. Basically, they possessed the bloodline power of ancient sacred beasts. Whether it was in the past or now, most of the prodigies that entered the sacred world had died under the claws of desolate beasts. Only a small number of them had died from killing each other. Be careful. Other than the desolate beast auras, there seems to be some hidden auras. After carefully sensing it, Qin Yu quietly sent a voice transmission to the Dragon Soul and Dragon Abyss to remind them. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. When Jiao Jingtian sensed the desolate beasts surrounding them, he immediately made a decision. Immediately, the 5 of them rushed towards the southeast, where the treasure was located at an extremely fast speed. However, after a few hundred miles, the 5 of them had no choice but to come to a stop. This was because in front of them, there were many ferocious-looking desolate beasts glaring at them covetously. Rumble. At the same time, the auras of desolate beasts surged in from the other 3 directions. The earth trembled violently at this moment, as if an earthquake had struck, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Damn it, we're surrounded. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua's expressions were extremely solemn. Being surrounded by desolate beasts was even more terrifying than being trapped in the sacred world's restrictions. Chapter 734. Most of them are in the Heavenly Wheel Realm. There are also quite a few in the Calamity Realm. The Dragon Soul's expression turned serious when it sensed the desolate beasts surrounding them. However, it wasn't as serious as the Jiao brothers. Compared to the pursuit of the mysterious existence from the Fire God Palace, the boundless wild beasts that besieged them looked much cuter. However, Long Yuan's expression was much more serious. Many ants could kill an elephant. There were tens of thousands of desolate beasts here. Even a heavenly venerate might not be able to kill them, let alone a Calamity Realm cultivator. He had personally experienced the dangers of the Outer Realm. At this moment, Long Yuan couldn't help but look at Qin Yu. He could only wait and see if Qin Yu had any ideas. It seems like someone is controlling these desolate beasts, Qin Yu said slowly. Previously, he could vaguely sense the presence of other auras among the desolate beasts. Those auras didn't belong to the desolate beasts. They should be void domain cultivators. Now, seeing those wild beasts blocking their path and surrounding them from all directions, Qin Yu is even more certain of this point. Controlling? Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua looked at each other and their expressions changed. Could it be? At this moment, they thought of the most terrifying rumor in the holy world. If what they thought was true, there was no doubt that the 5 of them wouldn't be able to escape today. Rumble. While the 5 of them were waiting solemnly, the desolate beasts from all directions suddenly gathered, causing the earthquake to become even more intense. However, the desolate beasts that gathered from other directions also stopped in their tracks, just like the desolate beasts that blocked their path. Their movements were so orderly that it was as if they were a well-trained army. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua's hearts sank when they saw this. From the looks of it, Qin Yu was right. The desolate beasts that surrounded them were indeed controlled by someone. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved in such an orderly manner. Bang, 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 bang. A single-horned giant rhinoceros walked out from the group of desolate beasts that blocked their path. This was a desolate beast with the bloodline of the divine nine-light rhinoceros. It had immense strength and unparalleled defense. There was once a genius from one of the great clans of the desolate region who witnessed a single-horned giant rhinoceros shattering a 10,000 jong tall divine mountain. Its combat prowess was extremely terrifying. But now this single-horned giant rhinoceros with amazing combat strength had been reduced to a mount. On the back of the rhinoceros, there was a figure sitting cross-legged lazily. It was a young man with a bare upper body and extremely well-developed muscles. The young man's light brown eyes were looking at Qin Yu and the others mockingly. His gaze was like that of a hunter looking at his prey, and it carried a superior attitude. The Blood Wyrm clan. No, this is the fluctuation of the Dragon clan's bloodline. After carefully sizing up Qin Yu and the others, the burly young man straightened his body and looked at Qin Yu, Long Hun, and Long Yuan in astonishment. Although the Blood Wyrm clan could be considered to be descendants of the Dragon clan, the Dragon clan's bloodline in their bodies was extremely faint. In fact, it could even be said to be dispensable. However, Qin Yu and the others were completely different. Although they had concealed it well, the burly young man still sensed an extremely rich Dragon clan's bloodline from Qin Yu and the others. The richness of the Dragon clan's bloodline made his heart skip a beat. Although he knew that it was unlikely, the burly young man still suspected that Qin Yu and the others were actually dragons in human form. Light brown eyes. The rumor is actually true. There really are descendants of the Beast God clan in the Saint Domain. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua looked at the burly young man's eye-catching eyes with a serious expression. Their faces even paled a little. The appearance of this burly young man confirmed their suspicions. There were countless great clans in the Void Domain. There were humans, monsters, beasts, ghosts, and many other clans. However, if one were to talk about the most prosperous royal clan in the history of the Void Domain, it would undoubtedly be the Beast God clan. The Beast God clan was born with the talent to control all beasts. Furthermore, most of the great clans in the Void Domain possessed the bloodline of monsters. As a result, the Beast God clan ruled over all the races in the Void Domain when they were at their peak. Later on, a great calamity occurred, and the Beast God clan suffered heavy losses. Since then, they had disappeared without a trace, as if they had been killed by some mysterious existence. There were only occasional rumors that members of the Beast God clan had appeared in the Saint Domain's trial. However, none of them had been verified. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua did not expect this rumor to be true. The Beast God clan, which had once ruled the Void Domain, actually had descendants who were still alive. The few of you are quite talented. I'll give you a chance. From now on, you'll be my slaves and follow me. That robust youth stood up. He looked down at Qin Yu and the other four from a high position. No matter what bloodline power Qin Yu and the others possessed, they were like fish on a chopping board in front of his desolate beast army. They could only be slaughtered by him. In such a situation, any ordinary person would not dare to resist unless they were tired of living. Slaves. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua's expressions changed drastically when they heard the burly young man's words. Anger and killing intent surged in their hearts. As the prodigies of the Fire Wyrm clan, they had never been humiliated like this before. However, the situation before them made them unable to say anything. After all, they had no way of resisting. They would either become slaves or die. You're really confident. Qin Yu's expression did not change much. However, a cold light flickered in his eyes. Did this Beast God clan youth really think that he could defeat them? Capture the ringleader first. Capture that guy first. With that thought in mind, Qin Yu notified the Dragon Soul and Dragon Abyss. Since these desolate beasts were under the control of the Beast God Clan youth, the crisis would be resolved as long as they captured him. Over the past few days, Chinyu had gained a basic understanding of the desolate beasts in the Saint Domain. To put it bluntly, these desolate beasts were not much different from wild beasts that had yet to develop intelligence. When there were invaders, they would attack them. When there were no invaders, they would kill each other. As long as no one was controlling them, it would be impossible for them to coexist peacefully with tens of thousands of desolate beasts gathered here. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. Either you kneel and become slaves, or you die in the mouths of these desolate beasts. 1, 2, 3. The burly young man from the Beast God clan looked down at Chinyu and the others with a cold smile. He had subdued many void domain prodigies as slaves. In the face of death, no matter how noble they would obediently kneel and become slaves. Whoosh! However, before the burly young man from the Beast God clan could finish his sentence, Chinyu, the dragon soul, and Long Yuan's figures flashed. As the void rippled slightly, they disappeared in a flash. Spatial divine ability? Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian, who were about to kneel, were shocked. Even the young man from the Beast God clan narrowed his eyes. Even in the void domain, cultivators who had comprehended the spatial divine ability were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Moreover, they had been able to escape in this saint domain with a spatial divine ability. This spatial divine ability was even rarer. Oh no! However, in the next moment, the burly young man from the Beast God clan seemed to have sensed something. His expression changed drastically, and he tried to jump off the back of the single-horned giant rhinoceros. Chapter 735. Rumble. However, just as the muscular youth from the Beast God clan was about to dodge, ripples appeared in the air behind him. A primal chaos dragon seal landed on his body at lightning speed. Terrifying heavenly origin energy exploded, destroying everything in its path. A clear cracking sound could be heard. The mysterious protective spiritual inscriptions on the Beast God clan youth's body were shattered. The remaining primal chaos divine power surged into the Beast God clan youth's body. The Beast God clan youth spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying dozens of feet away. His aura was chaotic, and he rolled on the ground weakly. The Beast God clan youth was at the peak of the Calamity Realm. Even if he did not control so many beasts, he should not have been defeated so easily. However, he had underestimated his opponents. He did not expect Chinyu and the other two to have spatial techniques. Due to his carelessness, he was defeated. Roar, 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 roar. The desolate beast army, which was originally orderly, immediately fell into chaos. Countless desolate beasts' eyes were bloodthirsty as they roared with murderous intent. Some desolate beasts pounced on Jiao Jingtian and his brother, while others trampled on the Beast God clan youth. However, most of the desolate beasts killed each other. The sight of tens of thousands of desolate beasts rioting was terrifying. Bloodline Seal, Flying Flood Dragon Technique. Jiao Jingtian and his brother, who were surrounded by the desolate beasts, looked at the terrifying desolate beasts charging at them. They immediately executed the Fire Flood Dragon race's secret technique. After the Beast God clan youth died, the surrounding desolate beasts started killing each other. This gave them a glimpse of hope. The two of them formed hand seals, and flaming flood dragon totems appeared on their bodies. In the next moment, flaming wings appeared behind the two of them. A fire flood dragon could be vaguely seen on each of the flaming wings. Whoosh! In an instant, the two of them flew into the air. They narrowly avoided the desolate beasts that were charging at them with bloodshot eyes. However, they had only flown a few dozen feet when the flaming wings on their backs dimmed. Then, they disappeared in the air and fell toward the desolate beast below. The pressure of the Tao techniques in this mystic realm was too terrifying. The Fire Flood Dragon race's secret technique could only last for a few breaths. Whoosh! However, at this moment, a long whip formed from heavenly origin energy swept over. He swept Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jiao away. It was Qin Yu who had used the teleportation talisman and his space-time technique to save Jiao Jingtian and his brother. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yu and the other four flew out of the range of those berserk wild beasts. After landing, Long Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. Jiao Jingtian and his brother looked like they had just survived a calamity. Only Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul looked indifferent and did not change much. They had encountered this level of danger countless times and had long since become accustomed to it. "Thank you for saving me, Brother Qin." Jiao Jingtian cupped his fists and thanked Qin Yu solemnly. Jiao Junhua also bowed. If it wasn't for Qin Yu's help this time, even if they forcefully unsealed their bloodline power, they would still not be able to escape the beast tide. This caused Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian to rejoice that they had not attacked Qin Yu's group of three back then. Instead, they chose to form an alliance. As expected, independent cultivators who were bold enough to enter the Saint's world to train could not be underestimated. "It's still too early for you to thank me," Qin Yu said indifferently. The Dragon Soul was surrounded by space-time energy that contained a destructive aura. Long Yuan also formed hand seals with his hands as chaotic dragon patterns appeared in his eyes. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian were stunned. "You're actually able to see through my secret technique. Not bad." Suddenly, a chuckle sounded. A young man wearing a pale yellow kasaya emerged from ground. His eyes were surrounded by lightning runes. The light yellow kasaya on his body shone with a mysterious light. It actually caused his aura to become one with the earth, and there was no distinction between them. This was why he was able to hide from the beast god's senses and follow Qin Yu's group. However, he did not expect that Qin Yu, who was only at the heavenly Yuan stage, would be able to sense his presence. This caused him to be extremely astonished. He sized up Qin Yu from head to toe. He could easily crush a heavenly Yuan stage cultivator to death, but Qin Yu was able to sense his presence. There was only one possibility. That is, Qin Yu possessed a treasure on him. Lightning pattern eyes. "You're from the Dark Lightning race?" Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua were shocked when they saw Qin Yu emerge from the ground. When they saw the lightning patterns in the young man's eyes, their expressions changed drastically. The lightning pattern eyes were the symbol of the Dark Lightning race. The people of the Dark Thunder clan had been secretly tailing them. This was too dangerous. If they were not careful, they would be in deep trouble. "Hand over your treasures, and I can spare your lives." Hong Kai looked at Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua with arrogance. He did not put them in his eyes at all. The two of them were in the calamity stage. Although they were not as weak as ants in the Saint Domain, they could be considered mid-tier existences. They would not be able to withstand a single blow from Hong Kai. If you want the treasures, you'll have to see if you're alive to take them." Jiao Junhua snorted coldly with killing intent surging in his eyes. Fiery beast patterns appeared on his skin. In the blink of an eye, they covered his entire body. Jiao Junhua's middle-stage calamity realm aura surged rapidly. Although he had yet to reach the late calamity stage, his aura was much stronger than before. Jiao Jingtian did not say anything. However, the silhouette of a fire serpent appeared in his eyes. His aura soared as well. Although Hong Kai's appearance gave them a lot of pressure, they were now in a group of 5. But now it was 5 against 1. Even if Hong Kai's battle prowess was extraordinary, he still had no chance of winning. "Do I have to live to take them?" "Ha! Didn't Jiao Jinyuan tell you that if you meet me, Hong Kai, in the Saint Realm, you have to submit obediently?" Hong Kai placed his hands behind his back and chuckled. The arrogance in his eyes grew. Hong Kai, one of the 3 great saints of the Dark Lightning race. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua, who were filled with killing intent, narrowed their eyes when they heard Hong Kai's name. His pupils immediately shrank to the size of needles, and his expression was filled with fear and even terror. Hong Kai was not only one of the 3 great saints of the Dark Lightning race. He was also ranked in the top 300 on the Void Domain Prodigy ranking. The Void Zone was extremely vast, and there were countless geniuses and geniuses in it. The fact that Honkai could enter the top 300 on the Void Domain Prodigy ranking showed how strong he was. Looks like you're not too ignorant. Now, hand over the treasures on your body. All right, don't even think about hiding the treasure map you obtained. Honkai's arrogance grew when he saw the fear on Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua's faces. Brother Qin, can you still use the flying technique you used before? Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua looked hesitant. They did not want to die at Honkai's hands, nor did they want to hand over the treasure map they had risked their lives to obtain. After all, it was very likely that the map hid the greatest secret of the Saint's world. Therefore, the two brothers could only place their hopes on Qin. Chapter 736. You can use it. Qin nodded slightly. That's great. Let's use it to shake him off before he makes a move. Jiao Jingtian and his brother hurriedly transmitted their voices to Qin Yu. Why? Qin Yu asked indifferently as he sized up Honkai. Brother Qin, have you never heard of Honkai from the Dark Thunder clan? Qin Yu's calm and collected appearance caused Jiao Jingtian and his brother to be extremely astonished. Even if he was a wandering cultivator, he should have heard of the proud son of heaven ranking. After all, it was the proud son of heaven ranking in the Void Zone. Honkai was one of the few geniuses in the ancient province who had made it into the proud son of heaven ranking. Jiao Jingtian and his brother knew that the Dark Thunder clan had their eyes on them. However, they did not expect that the person chasing after them would be Honkai. Never heard of him. Qin Yu's expression did not change. No matter where Honkai came from, he was only in the late calamity stage. In Qin Yu's eyes, he was not much of a threat. In fact, he was even weaker than the young man from the Beast God clan who had died in the Beast Tide. After all, the young man from the Beast God clan was in the peak calamity stage. Oh, do you really want me to do it myself? Jiao Jingtian and his brother were stunned. However, at this moment, Honkai seemed to have sensed their voice transmission, and his eyes darkened. The space around his body rippled slightly as threads of pure lightning were formed. An incomparably heavy and terrifying pressure suppressed the entire area. This is the power of heavenly lightning. Qin Yu's expression changed slightly when he saw the pure lightning around Honkai. This person was actually able to summon the power of heavenly lightning with his heaven origin stage. It seemed like he was quite capable. Wait, we're willing to hand over the treasure map. Seeing this, Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian's faces turned deathly pale as they hurriedly cried out in fear. Brother Qin, are you sure you don't want to fly away? He's Honkai from the Dark Thunder clan. Jiao Jingtian and his brother sent Qin Yu a voice transmission as they took out the treasure map. As long as Qin Yu was willing to use the treasure to escape. In that case, they might be able to escape safely without having to hand over the treasure map. I've already said that I've never heard of him. Furthermore, a late-stage Calamity Realm cultivator isn't enough to scare me enough to flee. Qin Yu said calmly, since you want to die, then we won't accompany you. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have joined hands with you. Jiao Jingtian and his brother glared hatefully at Qin Yu. They did not expect Qin Yu to be such a stubborn person. They clearly could have escaped, yet they chose to pretend here, causing them to have no choice but to use the treasure map to save their lives. They were extremely unwilling to hand over the treasure trove map. They immediately fled with their tails between their legs, not daring to stay in the slightest. Honkai was indeed only at the advanced Calamity Realm, but his combat strength was far beyond that. These two fellows are really fickle. Could it be that they have forgotten that if we had not intervened during the Beast Tide, they would have long been dead? Long Yuan frowned, his expression dark. He was very unhappy with Jiao Jingtian and his brother. Just a moment ago, Long Yuan was crying with gratitude. Now, he was actually complaining about them. Qin Yu did not react much. Their alliance was built on benefits, so it naturally wasn't very solid. Now that they had encountered a strong enemy, it was normal for them to flee. There's no need to get angry over these two short-sighted fellows. On the other hand, this fellow is suitable for Lei Kuang. The dragon soul looked at Honkai with great interest. The purple lightning divine dragon was somewhat excited by the heavenly lightning on Honkai's body. Clearly, the purple lightning divine dragon was attracted by the heavenly lightning on Honkai's body. The heavenly lightning can indeed help Lei Kuang evolve and increase his strength. A faint smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. You dare to resist after seeing me? Your courage is commendable. Tell me your names. I don't kill nameless people. After confirming that the treasure map was real, Honkai was delighted. However, when he saw that Qin Yu and the other two did not react, a trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. You're about to die, and you still dare to boast shamelessly? The dragon soul really couldn't stand Honkai's boundlessly arrogant appearance. He was clearly just a late calamity stage cultivator, but he really thought that he was invincible. Very well. You've successfully angered me. I've decided to seal you and throw you into the boundless purgatory to receive the most terrifying punishment in the world. Honkai's face sank, and his gaze was bone-chilling. The heavenly lightning around him became even more berserk and terrifying. You think you can do that? The dragon's soul sneered. Unstoppable thunderbolt. Honkai's eyes twitched. He cannot be bothered to talk nonsense and directly attacked. As a famous genius of the void domain, no one had ever dared to speak to him in such a rude manner. A deafening explosion could be heard in the void. A 10-zhong-long pale golden thunderbolt appeared in the sky and suddenly smashed down. At this moment, the sky shook violently. Primal chaos dragon realm. The dragon soul was not afraid at all. He raised his hands high. A mass of primal chaos dragon chi spread out and enveloped the golden lightning bolt. You're courting death. Seeing the dragon soul face it head-on, the cold smile in Honkai's eyes grew wider. Even late calamity stage cultivators of the same cultivation base as him would not dare to take his heavenly lightning head-on. The dragon soul was only at the early calamity stage, yet he dared to take it head-on. He was simply courting death. The golden lightning bolt and the primal chaos dragon chi met in an instant. The two of them didn't appear the expected heaven-shaking collision. The moment the golden lightning bolt touched the primal chaos dragon chi, it disappeared. From the looks of it, it was directly devoured by the primal chaos dragon chi. How could this be? Honkai was shocked and found it hard to believe. His heavenly lightning had been refined and broken down the moment it entered the primal chaos dragon chi, and he had lost connection with it. After all, the heavenly lightning he had cast had not come from the heavenly lightning. Instead, it had been refined from the heavenly lightning he had gathered. It could be said that it was his natal treasure. It should not have been devoured and refined so easily. This made Honkai's face turn gloomy. He did not expect that the few ants he did not take seriously would have such means. They had caused him to suffer a lot. It is indeed a great tonic. Sensing that the purple thunder divine dragon's cultivation base had increased after refining the heavenly lightning, Qin Yu revealed a faint smile. A genius on the Pride of War list. Is this all you can do? TSK, TSK. The dragon soul shook its head and provoked Honkai again. I like to see what kind of treasure you have. With a gloomy and terrifying look, Honkai's body flashed with lightning. He appeared in front of the dragon soul like a ray of light and punched at it. The destructive heavenly lightning origin chi condensed, and the air was blasted and the void trembled. That speed and power were comparable to a perfected calamity stage cultivator. The dragon soul was not afraid at all. It used its space-time ability to meet the attack head-on. Chapter 737. In an instant, the flow of time in this area was slowed down by several times. Spatial cracks also appeared without warning, which made people's hearts palpitate. He has comprehended the Tao of time and space. Honkai, whose cultivation base was much higher than Dragon Soul's, felt as if he had fallen into a muddy swamp. Facing Dragon Soul, he felt that he couldn't exert his strength at all. Whether it was the slowing of time or the spatial cracks, he had to focus on dealing with them. Otherwise, he might be hit by Dragon Soul's killing move. Of course, as a famous genius on the Void Zone Battle Genius list, Dragon Soul's power was limited. Although Hong Kai couldn't defeat Dragon Soul, with his powerful cultivation base and mysterious means, he didn't fall into a disadvantage. The battle between the two was in a stalemate, and it was hard to tell who would win. Qin Yu didn't intervene in the battle. Dragon Soul hadn't fought officially since he left the Heaven Domain. Now, Dragon Soul would deal with Hong Kai. As for Dragon Soul, he couldn't intervene because he wasn't strong enough. Although the Dragon Abyss and the Primal Chaos Ancestor Dragon's cultivation speed was also quite shocking. However, compared to Dragon Soul, who had awakened the bloodline of immortal ancient Shenron, he was still far behind. Rumble. The battle lasted for nearly 2 hours, and the land was in a mess. However, Dragon Soul and Hong Kai still couldn't decide who would win. Both of them were not only strong, but also had amazing potential. There are actually such terrifying geniuses among the rogue cultivators. After such a long battle, Hong Kai, who didn't take Dragon Soul seriously, had a serious look in his gloomy eyes. He had killed countless famous rogue cultivators in the Void Zone. However, this was the first time he had encountered someone who was so powerful and unknown to the public. Such talent caused Hong Kai to feel jealous. As he felt jealous, his killing intent grew even denser. If the news spread that he couldn't even deal with a rogue cultivator, it would be a great blow to his reputation. Thunderstrike Art Kill. Finally, after sending Dragon Soul flying, Hong Kai took the opportunity to perform the Dark Thunder Clan's secret art. A dark golden heavenly thunder ancient seal formed and blasted toward Dragon Soul. Space-time flow, chaotic reversal. The Dragon Soul's expression turned solemn. He could sense an extremely terrifying ripple from the ancient heavenly thunder seal. Without the slightest hesitation, the Dragon Soul immediately used its space-time ability and used its newly comprehended space-time turbulence to sweep the ancient heavenly thunder seal back. Amongst the myriad of Daos in the universe, the power of space-time was definitely one of the most difficult to control and deal with. Because of this, being able to comprehend the power of time and space was basically related to one's innate talent. Facing the Dragon Soul's move, Hong Kai, who was about to continue to use his killer move, had a drastic change in expression. He did not expect that his killer move could be drawn back. Heavenly Thunder Shield, Hong Kai shouted. Rolling heavenly thunder surged out of his body and turned into a layer of heavenly thunder shield behind his fist, protecting him inside. The lightning strike technique possessed an incomparably powerful destructive power, while the heavenly thunder shield possessed an incomparably powerful defense. This was also the only way Hong Kai could defend against the lightning strike technique. It's over. The eyes of the Dragon Soul flashed, and its hands formed a seal. A spatial crack appeared in front of the dark golden thunderbolt and swallowed the dark golden thunderbolt. At the same time, a spatial crack also appeared behind Hong Kai, who was protected by the heavenly thunder shield. Boom! In the next moment, the dark golden thunderbolt surged out from the spatial crack behind Hong Kai and suddenly bombarded him. A destructive wave erupted. After Hong Kai's body shook violently, he was enveloped by his own secret technique, the heavenly thunder, and there was nowhere to escape. The Dragon Soul had already used its space-time ability to seal the void and set up a restriction array. Sure enough, the dark golden thunderbolt just now was different from the heavenly thunder he had used before. Seeing that Hong Kai's aura was becoming more and more chaotic and weak under the thunderbolt, the Dragon Soul smiled. It was because it sensed that the dark, golden, ancient heavenly thunder seal had not been refined by Hong Kai. It should be the thunderbolt that he had sealed. That was why the Dragon Soul had used this killer move evolved from the space-splitting ability. It turned out that its guess was right. Hong Kai was now defeated by its own secret technique. Just as the Dragon Soul was about to use its killer move, an aura quickly approached. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul immediately sensed it and looked over. Soon, a figure in cyan robes appeared in Qin Yu and the other two's sights. I can't believe it's Hong Kai. Who are these three? Upon seeing Hong Kai in such a miserable state, the man in cyan robes came to a stop, not daring to get too close. Hong Kai of the Dark Thunder clan was famous among the young, chosen ones of the Void Domain. The fact that Hong Kai had been reduced to such a state showed how powerful Qin Yu and the other twos were. Mu Wushui, help me. I'll reward you handsomely. Even though Hong Kai, who was trapped in the flow of time and doing his best to resist the ancient Heavenly Thunder seal, was getting more and more injured, he was still alive. Upon seeing the man in cyan robes, he immediately grabbed hold of a life-saving straw and shouted, "Ha! I'm afraid I won't be able to do that." Mu Wushui took a look at Qin Yu and the other two and chuckled, but didn't do anything. The Dark Thunder clan had been the natural bane of the Wood Spirit race, and they had always been suppressed by the Dark Thunder clan, so they didn't have a good relationship with each other. Not to mention that Hong Kai was now in danger and would die beyond the shadow of a doubt. Even if he were at his peak strength, he wouldn't do anything. "If you don't save me, my seniors won't let you off the hook when they find out." Hong Kai's expression was hideous as he roared furiously. Qin Yu and the other two rogue cultivators wouldn't be afraid of the Dark Thunder clan. However, the Wood Spirit race was a major Void Domain race. They wouldn't run away like rogue cultivators. If the Dark Thunder clan went all out against the Wood Spirit race, the Wood Spirit race wouldn't be able to survive. What a joke. This is the holy world. If you die here, your seniors won't be able to find out, no matter how powerful they are. Disgust appeared in Mu Wushui's eyes, but he still didn't do anything. The Dark Thunder clan was indeed powerful. However, the three of them didn't seem to be afraid of the Dark Thunder clan at all. Therefore, Mu Wushui naturally didn't want to get himself into trouble. "Damn it!" Hong Kai roared. Rolling heavenly lightning kept pouring out of him in an attempt to break through the teleportation portal the Dragon Soul had set up. Unfortunately, it didn't work. He could only watch helplessly as the situation became more and more serious. "It's about time," Qin Yu asked the Dragon Soul. "Yeah, it's done." The Dragon Soul nodded. "Then let's draw on the net." Hearing such a casual conversation between Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul, Hong Kai felt a strong sense of uneasiness. Mu Wushui grew more and more apprehensive. From what Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul had said, it seemed that they could kill Hong Kai at any time. It was just that they had sealed Hong Kai for some reason. Chapter 738. Soon, Hong Kai and Mu Wushui knew what Qin Yu and Lin Yan were up to. The Dragon Soul formed hand seals, and a layer of primal chaos aura enveloped Hong Kai. Vaguely, a dragon's roar could be heard coming from the primal chaos aura. Hong Kai's roar gradually became softer and softer until it completely disappeared. At this moment, the purple lightning divine dragon spat out divine lightning to refine Hong Kai, who had been suppressed to the extreme. One could clearly sense the purple lightning divine dragon's aura growing at a shocking speed. The lightning that Hong Kai refined and the dark lightning clan's bloodline in his body were great nourishment for the purple lightning divine dragon. Is Hong Kai dead? Mu Wushui couldn't help sucking in a cold breath when he sensed Hong Kai's aura completely disappear. Although he had a premonition, he still found it hard to believe when it actually happened. After all, Lin Yan was a genius that could enter the pride of war ranking. Mu Wushui became more and more fearful of Qin Yu and the other two. Is this the treasure map that the Fire WYRM clan obtained? After Hong Kai was refined by the purple lightning divine dragon, Qin Yu obtained the treasure map that Hong Kai had obtained from Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian. However, the treasure map wasn't complete. It only roughly recorded the location of the Sacred World's treasure. No wonder those two fellows kept bringing us around this area. So it turns out that they didn't know the exact location. The Dragon Soul understood after taking a look at it. If they hadn't been wandering around this area, they wouldn't have been surrounded by the descendants of the Beast God clan, nor would they have been targeted by Hong Kai. At the very least, we know the approximate location. The fact that the Fire WRM tribe and the Dark Thunder tribe were fighting over this map meant that it was definitely not an ordinary treasure trove. Since Qin Yu had encountered it, There was naturally no reason for him to let it go. Before he found the dragon race, Qin Yu's cultivation speed wouldn't increase greatly. As for Qin Yu, increasing his cultivation was something that he couldn't wait to do. Whether it was his master or fairy Shualon, he needed to have sufficient strength before he could go. The three of you, please wait. As Qin Yu withdrew the ancient map and was about to leave, Mu Wuxie, who had been standing quite a distance away, approached him. Of course, he still maintained a relatively safe distance from Qin Yu and the other two. In the Saint's world, being on guard against others was something they had to do. What's up? Qin Yu and the other two looked at Mu Wuxue. There was no demonic aura on Mu Wuxue's body. Instead, there was a rather pure aura of nature. Combined with what Hong Kai had said about the Wood Spirit clan, could it be that this person was a spirit wood that had given birth to sentience? I have an ancient map of the Saints' world's treasures as well. Under the curious gazes of Qin Yu and the others, Mu Wuxue smiled and took out an ancient map. The eyes of Qin Yu and the other two narrowed. They realized that the map in Mu Wuxue's hand was made of the same material as the treasure map they had obtained. According to what I know, there are a total of 7 treasure maps in the Saints' world. Only by combining the 7 maps can you find the entrance to the Saints' world. Mu Wuxue said, "These 7 maps have already been obtained by others." Qin Yu's gaze moved from the treasure map to Mu Wuxue. That's right. Moreover, those who obtained the 7 maps have all participated in this Saints' world's trial. Mu Wuxue replied, "That means that we have to work together to find the treasure." Qin Yu pondered for a moment and then said indifferently, "If we want to find the Saints' world's treasures, working together is definitely the wisest decision." Mu Wuxue glanced at the dragon's soul. After this short conversation, he could tell that Qin Yu and the other two were led by Qin Yu. Although he didn't know why it wasn't the dragon soul with a stronger cultivation, it didn't matter. To Mu Wuxue, working together to find the Saints' world's treasures was the most appropriate method. After all, according to what he knew, the other people who had found the treasure map were all ridiculously strong. Of course, they were still lacking compared to Hong Kai. Naturally, they couldn't be compared to Qin Yu and the other two who could kill Hong Kai. If he could work together with Qin Yu and the other two, then he would have a lot of assurance. All right, let's work together then. Qin Yu looked at Mu Wuxue and quickly made a decision. Although they had learned from the Fire WYRM tribe's mistake, Qin Yu didn't reject. With Mu Wuxue's mid-calamity stage cultivation, they had nothing to fear. If they really fell out, they could just fight. Let's get to know each other. I'm Mu Wuxue from the Wood Spirit tribe. Seeing that Qin Yu agreed to the alliance, Mu Wuxue smiled. Seeing that Qin Yu and the other two didn't have any intention of snatching, Mu Wuxue heaved a sigh of relief. Qin Tian, a rogue cultivator. Qin Yu clasped his fists. Rogue cultivator? Mu Wuxue was taken aback as he looked at Qin Yu and the other two with a strange gaze. He had thought that Qin Yu and the other two dared to kill Hong Kai so easily because they were the chosen ones of the super clans in the Void Domain. Who would have thought that they were actually rogue cultivators? The question was, when did such a monstrous genius appear among the rogue cultivators of the ancient prefecture? Qin Yu and the other two ignored Mu Wuxue's strange gaze and left the incomparably chaotic battlefield. Mu Wuxue immediately followed. However, because he was afraid of their strength, he kept a certain distance from Qin Yu and the other two. After they were dozens of kilometers away, Qin Yu and the other two chose a lonely mountain peak and entered secluded cultivation. They had consumed a lot of dragon souls in the previous battle. This sacred world was very strange. Just in case, it was better to be in peak condition. While Qin Yu and the other two and Mu Wuxue were meditating on a mountain peak. In a barren mountain several hundred miles away from them, several people who were sitting cross-legged in an ancient formation suddenly opened their eyes. These people all had lightning tattoos in their eyes. They were from the Dark Thunder race. Hong Kai's aura really disappeared. What's going on? With Hong Kai's strength, even if he encountered an opponent he couldn't defeat, he should have been able to escape. How'd he die? Could it be that he was trapped in a forbidden area? He left after chasing after the fire WIRM race. Well, no, once we find the fire WIRM race. Even Hong Kai was killed. Just in case, let's send someone to inform Hong Ming. After they confirmed that Hong Kai's aura had disappeared and that he had died, they left. After discussing with each other, the Dark Thunder race members left one after another. 2 days later, Qin Yu and the other 3 followed the clues on the 2 maps and headed towards the treasure trove. However, they still hadn't found the exact location of the treasure trove, so they could only search around. Someone's coming. Mu Wuxie, who had been searching for another day and was about to set up a barrier to rest, immediately said to Qin Yu and the other 2. These 2 auras. Mu Wuxie's eyes flickered. They're back? Long Yuan frowned. Qin Yu looked in the direction of the 2 auras. As expected, 2 figures were carefully approaching them. Those 2 were Jiao Jingtian and his brother, who had abandoned them and fled. P.S. I was born to be invincible. Chapter 739. Brother Qin. Jiao Jingtian and his brother's expressions changed when they saw Qin Yu's group of 3. However, they still walked over with a smile and greeted Qin Yu warmly. Brother Qin, do you know them? Mu Wuxue, who was currently on guard, did not disperse his spirit formation and instead sent a voice transmission to Qin Yu. You can say that, Qin Yu said indifferently. His expression did not change at all. Mu Wuxue immediately understood when he saw Qin Yu's expression. Brother Qin, we brothers have been looking for you the entire way. Mu Wuxue spoke as he looked at Qin Yu and Jiao Jingtian, who were within the barrier, as if they were very close. Previously, Jiao Jingtian had been afraid of Hong Kai, so he could only hand over the treasure map and flee. However, when they thought about how Qin Yu's group of 3 managed to escape the encirclement of the beast god race's descendant, a trace of hope appeared in their hearts. After all, the beast god race's descendant was a peak calamity stage cultivator. Thus, they turned around and returned. In the end, what they saw when they returned was an incomparably messy battlefield. When they used their secret techniques, they found out that Qin Yu's group of 3 was fine, but Hong Kai had died. This result made their intestines turn green with regret, and they immediately chased after Qin Yu's group. After a few days, they finally found Qin Yu's group. Didn't you guys run for your lives? Why are you looking for us now? Long Yuan and Long Hun's expressions turned ugly when they saw Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian. Earlier, Jiao Jingtian's brother had fled before the battle. This had allowed them to clearly see his character. They had agreed to work together, but they fled alone when they were in trouble. Such people weren't worth being friends with. Brother Qin, we were indeed in the wrong. We're here because we want to continue working together. Jiao Jingtian and Long Hun's expressions turned awkward, but they didn't leave. Enough. We don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Go as far as you can. Long Hun interrupted when he heard the words, work together. Brother Qin, are you really not going to give us any face? Jiao Zhongtian's expression turned unsightly when he was scolded. Face? Are you worthy? Long Yuan snorted coldly. Not only were the 2 of them cowardly, but they were also shameless. How could they have a nerve to say that they would give them face? No matter what, we were the ones who told you about the treasure. Although we were in the wrong before, your actions of wanting to monopolize the treasure map now are somewhat unjust, Jiao Jingtian said. Unjust? You actually have the cheek to call us unrighteous when you're running for your life at such a critical juncture? Killing intent flashed in the Dragon Soul's eyes when it saw Jiao Zhongtian and Lin Yun pestering each other. Since you don't want to join forces, that's fine too. Hand over the map of the treasure trove. That map is something that we brothers only managed to obtain after a narrow escape. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao spoke in a rude and unreasonable manner. What did you say? You want us to give you the map? Looking at the shameless Jiao Zhongtian brothers, Long Yuan gritted his teeth and shouted, You willingly gave this treasure map to the Dark Thunder clan in order to save your lives. As for us, we snatched it after killing the people of the Dark Thunder clan. Tell me, what does the map have to do with you now? The dragon soul's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. You clearly have the ability to deal with the Dark Thunder clan. Why didn't you do it before? Could it be that he didn't do it on purpose because he wanted the treasure map? Jiao Jingtian and Jiao looked like they had met a bad person. Right now, I really regret saving these two ingrates from the beast tide. The dragon soul was so angry that it began to laugh. To be honest, I'm curious. You're afraid of the Dark Thunder clan, but why aren't you afraid of us? Do you think that we don't dare to kill you? Qin Yu calmly looked at Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian. That calm look in his eyes was as if he was looking at two dead people. You dare? We're from the Fire WIRM clan. If you dare to attack us, we'll kill you. There is absolutely no place for you to hide in the Gu province. When Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua heard this, their expressions changed and they took several steps back. Only now did they remember that the three people in front of them were ruthless people who had killed the descendant of the Orc God tribe in Honkai, who was on the Genius of Combat list. If Qin Yu and the other two wanted to kill them, wouldn't it be easy? I'll give you 2 breaths of time to disappear from our sight and never appear again. If I see you again, you can prepare to be on your way. The coldness in Qin Yu's eyes became denser, and his tone was bone-chilling. Let's go. Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua felt a chill run down their spines when they sensed the killing intent from Qin Yu. They didn't dare to stay any longer. They glanced at Qin Yu and his brothers with resentment, and then left at lightning speed. Trash who only bully the weak and fear the strong. The dragon's soul snorted coldly and withdrew its space-time ability. If it weren't for the fact that Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua were far away, the dragon soul would have killed them long ago. There's no need to care about ants, said Qin Yu indifferently. He then sat down cross-legged again. Brother Qin, those two should be brothers from the Fire WIRM clan, right? At this moment, Mu Wuxue, who had been watching quietly without interrupting earlier, spoke out. Yeah, Qin Yu nodded his head. I heard that those two brothers have terrible characters. Brother Qin, I'm afraid that you'll leave behind trouble if you let them go, said Mu Wuxue. It's fine. It doesn't matter. If they dare to come again, they must be tired of living. Qin Yu didn't really care about Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Junhua. You can't be afraid, right? The dragon soul looked at Mu Wuxue with flickering eyes. He was considering if he should make a move and snatch the treasure map from Mu Wuxue's hands. He didn't want Mu Wuxue to run away and reduce their chances of finding the Sacred World's treasure. Haha, there are indeed many geniuses stronger than me in the Sacred World. But to be honest, there aren't many that can make me feel fear. Honkai can be considered one of them. As for the two from the Fire WIRM clan, they're nothing in my eyes. I'm just worried that they'll do something if I let them go. Mu Wuxue smiled when he heard the dragon soul's words. Although he was in the middle calamity realm like Jiao Jingtian and Jiao Jingtian, Mu Wuxue's strength was much greater than Mu Wuxue's. However, Mu Wuxue's strength was far superior to Jiao Jingtian's. Even though he was facing a late-stage calamity-grade existence, he did not fear him at all. This was also the reason why Mu Wuxue dared to approach Honkai when he sensed Honkai's aura. The dragon soul fell silent for a moment. Mu Wuxue's words made sense. After all, the Fire WRM clan was one of the major clans in the Void Domain. They definitely had a lot of connections. However, upon seeing Qin Yu, who had a normal expression and had entered a meditative state, the dragon soul also restrained its messy thoughts. In the face of absolute power, all schemes and machinations were nothing but paper tigers. If they really came to cause trouble, the dragon soul would just tear them apart. Chapter 740. After searching for another 3 days, Qin Yu and the others still didn't find anything. After some discussion, they decided to look for other people who had the map. If they could reach an agreement, they would join forces. If they couldn't reach an agreement, they would fight. It would save them a lot of time. After all, there was a time limit to the trial in the Holy World. When the time was up, even if they found the location of the treasure, it would be useless. Whoosh, whoosh. On this day, Qin Yu and the others, who were running at full speed, suddenly stopped. They raised their heads and looked at the surging origin chi in front of them. What a violent origin chi! However, although it's violent, it's extremely pure. This is an opportunity. Qin Yu and the others were overjoyed after sensing it. If they could absorb and refine such a vast amount of origin chi, their cultivation would definitely improve greatly. It's actually an origin chi tide. Mu Wushui's face was also filled with joy. The origin chi tide was formed by the purest origin chi of heaven and earth. As long as it was absorbed into the body, it would be converted into heavenly yuan. This was an opportunity that only existed in the holy world. Immediately, the four of them rushed into the origin chi tide and began to devour and refine it. That yuan chi surged violently like a storm, wreaking havoc without a fixed location. Qin Yu and the other three quickly refined the origin energy while using their techniques. Their bodies moved along with the violent origin energy and floated away. The origin chi tide caused a huge commotion. As it swept along the way, it attracted the attention of many void domain geniuses. In the beginning, the geniuses who came were seizing the time to cultivate and mind their own business. However, as more and more people came, even the origin chi tide wasn't enough for them to cultivate. A battle inevitably broke out. A few days later, Qin Yu and the others were also attacked. There was no other reason. Qin Yu and Long Yuan were too weak. One was at the peak heavenly will stage, while the other was at the peak heavenly origin stage. Their cultivation bases were completely insufficient in the origin chi tide. Before this, there were already many people who had their eyes on them. It was only because of the terrifying aura of the dragon's soul and Mu Wushui that they held back. Now, as more and more powerful calamity stage prodigies appeared, there were naturally people who couldn't hold back and made a move. A mere heavenly wheel stage and heavenly origin stage cultivators are not qualified to share this opportunity. Get the hell out of here. The attacker was a man who was nearly 3 meters tall. His body was surrounded by blazing divine light. His temperament was outstanding and extraordinary. He looked disdainfully at Qin Yu and the others. His gaze was cold and indifferent, as if he was looking at ants. His cultivation had reached the late stage of the calamity realm, which was extremely terrifying. Beside him, there were several other sky prides with equally terrifying auras. They were all sky prides in the late stage of the calamity realm. 5 late-stage calamity realm experts. Even among the younger generation in the entire Void Zone, this kind of battle prowess was absolutely tyrannical. You're courting death. The dragon's soul frowned and spoke coldly. A chilling aura filled the air. Qin Yu opened his eyes. After glancing at those people, he ignored them and closed his eyes again, continuing to madly devour origin chi. He had already sensed that his cultivation had reached a bottleneck and was about to break through again. As for these people, the dragon soul could completely deal with them. Hu Xian of the Divine Fire Clan. Mu Wushui recognized the 3-meter-tall man. The Divine Fire Clan was also one of the super clans of the Void Zone. Hu Xian was one of the top sky prides of the Divine Fire Clan. This was enough to be seen from his late-stage calamity realm cultivation. Of course, there was not much fluctuation in Mu Wushui's eyes. Even Hong Kai of the Dark Thunder Clan died at the hands of Qin Yu and the others. What waves could Hu Xian and the others cause? It should be known that although Hu Xian's cultivation had also reached the late stage of the calamity realm, his battle prowess was not just a little bit inferior to Hong Kai's. Mere ants, how dare you boast so shamelessly? Go, I want to tear them into pieces and let their souls sink forever. Hu Xian placed his hands behind his back and did not make a move. He only gave the order coldly. Among Qin Yu and the others, only Mu Wushui could barely enter his eyes. However, a late-stage calamity realm cultivator was not enough. He did not need to make a move to easily suppress them. Beside Hu Xian, the few powerful late-stage calamity realm sky prides immediately crossed the void and rushed toward Qin Yu and the others. The origin chi on their bodies boiled. and their chi and blood were vast. They were like ancient killing gods that had awakened, and their killing intent soared into the sky. Such a terrifying, murderous aura startled the surrounding geniuses, who were either cultivating or battling, and they all looked over in that direction. Such a shocking killing intent was definitely cultivated by a terrifying killing technique. Only those ancient and mysterious great forces with extraordinary foundations could have it. Since you think your lives are too long, then I'll send you on your way. The dragon soul faced them head-on, and its attacks were quite rough. Its fists punched continuously, and fist shadows filled the sky. The sound of air exploding rang out continuously. In the void, the fist energy visible to the naked eye turned into ripples, spreading in the origin chi tide and wreaking havoc. The two sides met in an instant, and a violent battle immediately broke out. Although the difference in cultivation was huge, and it was one against many, the dragon soul did not fall into a disadvantage. Its simple and ordinary fist light contained the mysterious mysteries of space and time, which unknowingly weakened and disintegrated the killing techniques of the few void domain sky prides. Its methods were mysterious. This scene shocked the Calamity Stage prodigies who were watching the battle in secret. The Dragon Soul's cultivation was barely close to the middle stage of the Calamity Realm. It had not officially stepped into the middle stage of the Calamity Realm yet. However, it was actually evenly matched with several late-stage Calamity Realm sky prides. This kind of battle prowess was too terrifying. It actually comprehended a space-time ability. Hu Xian, who was standing with his hands behind his back and watching coldly from the side, also revealed a shocked expression. He noticed the Dragon Soul's secret of fighting the strong alone. This also made the killing intent in Hu Xian's heart grow even stronger, and a bone-chilling coldness spread out. With such talent, since he had offended it, he naturally had to eliminate it completely. He could not let it rise, so as to avoid future troubles. No wonder even someone as strong as Hong Kai fell in their hands. Since joining forces, this was the first time Mu Wuxue had seen the Dragon Soul attack with its full strength. This made him extremely shocked. If he were to face such an opponent, even if he could deal with it, he would definitely not be able to fight back as easily as the Dragon Soul. Of course, Mu Wuxue had not been watching the battle. The Dragon Soul could only fight against those few powerful sky prides. It would be quite difficult to kill them. Therefore, Mu Wuxue took action. His body flashed with a bright green light, dazzling and eye-catching. In the origin chi tide, huge ancient trees grew out of thin air, exuding vigorous vitality. In the blink of an eye, a vast and lush sea of trees appeared. The branches swayed and the leaves rustled. A huge amount of origin chi was absorbed by the ancient trees, making the ancient trees in the sea of trees grow stronger and stronger, soaring into the sky. In the sea of trees, there were also green vines twisting like poisonous snakes lurking in the dark, ready to bite at any time. Chapter 741, God-Slaying Tree Realm, the Wood Spirit Clan's Supreme Superpower. Rumor has it that the Wood Spirit Clan's ancestor once used this move to kill a deity. Among the younger generation of the Wood Spirit Clan, only Mu Wuxue can use this supreme superpower. As the God-Slaying Tree Realm descended, the young prodigies who were either secretly watching or cultivating felt immense pressure and attacked one after another. Destructive yuan qi exploded, and towering ancient trees collapsed one after another. However, there was an endless stream of pure yuan qi in the yuan qi frenzy for the God-Slaying Tree Realm to absorb. This was because the number of ancient trees destroyed in the God-Slaying Tree Realm was far less than the number of ancient trees that were born. The surrounding prodigies had no choice but to retreat again and again. The God-Slaying Tree Realm was a great killing technique that had once killed deities. Once one fell into it, they would be in big trouble. At this moment, the prodigies in the Advanced Calamity Realm who were trapped in the God-Slaying Tree Realm were indeed in a very bad situation. A dragon soul that could use space superpower was already troublesome enough for them. Now, there was Mu Wuxue, who could use the god-slaying tree realm. This made things worse for them, and they found it even more difficult to deal with it. Pucci! A cold light flashed, and the left shoulder of one of the prodigies was pierced. Blood gushed out. If that prodigy had not reacted quickly enough, it would have been his head that was pierced. The power of time, as expected of the most difficult superpower to resist. It's really impossible to guard against. That prodigy quickly retreated. His face was pale, and his heart was filled with great fear. He kept using secret techniques to suppress the wound on his left shoulder. Logically speaking, at their level, the vitality in their bodies was so strong that it was like the sea. Ordinary injuries could be healed in an instant. But now, the wound that the prodigy had been pierced by the dragon soul showed no signs of healing. Blood kept gushing out, dyeing his clothes red. No matter how hard he tried, it would not stop flowing. This was because the attack of the dragon's soul contained the power of time. The power of time affected the time and space around the wound, so the prodigy's secret healing technique could not heal at all. Swoosh! 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 Before the prodigy could suppress his injury, rays of green light silently wrapped around him. Those were the green vines of the god-slaying tree realm. Every single vine had a mysterious green pattern on it. It seemed like a type of primeval text, yet also seemed like some sort of grand Tao of the heavens and earth. It emitted an ancient and boundless aura. Scram! That heaven's chosen was extremely vigilant and immediately sensed the incoming attack. With a roar of rage, he blasted out an attack. Boundless killing intent gushed out, as if there was an army of thousands upon thousands of men and horses. Their killing intent caused one's heart to tremble violently. However, the green vines that bore the brunt of the terrifying, murderous aura only trembled slightly before they were unaffected. They continued to surround the prodigy from all directions. These green vines were the greatest hidden danger of the god-slaying tree world. Once wrapped around, they could instantly devour the blood and chi of an ancient giant beast. It was extremely terrifying. Whoosh! Just as the prodigy was about to be surrounded by the green vines and had nowhere to run, the prodigy's expression changed. A fiery glow that was as hot as the sun descended from the sky and burned wantonly. Smoke rose from all the ancient trees and strange green vines wherever it passed. They began to shrivel, as though all the water in their bodies had been evaporated. Mu Wuxue was shocked. The ancient trees of the god-slaying tree world possessed a heaven-defying healing speed. But now, under the illumination of the fiery glow, the recovery speed of the ancient trees was far from comparable. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the power contained within the fiery glow was. Boom! Boom! Two deafening explosions rang out immediately after. Rows of towering ancient trees were smashed to pieces, and waves of extremely terrifying heat surged from a certain direction like waves. The dragon soul and Mu Wuxue shifted their gazes and saw that in the depths of the tree world, a huge fireball that was as dazzling as the sun had appeared. Within the fireball, a tall man walked with a majestic gait. Divine flames surged around his body, and divine light bloomed from his blazing armor. He was like a god of war that had descended to the mortal world. He was incomparably majestic, enough to suppress everything in the world. It was Hu Xian who had come. Hu Xian was able to recruit powerful prodigies of the same level under his command. The strength of his original body was naturally frightening. Now that he saw that the prodigy he had recruited was in danger, he chose to personally take action. One has comprehended the Tao of space-time, and the other has grasped the god-slaying tree world. The two of you are qualified to die in my hands. Hu Xian took large strides forward, with a kind of domineering aura that swept everything before him. Before his voice fell, Hu Xian attacked. He opened his hands and clenched them in the air. Two blazing whips condensed, like dragons and snakes rising together. There were flame divine runes floating within them, emitting endless destructive power. The long whips danced, lashing out in the air. The air was torn apart, powerful and domineering. Mu Wuxue bellowed, his hands forming an ancient seal. Green vines danced like a group of demons, circling around his body, facing the blazing whip that broke through the air. Chi chi chi. The two collided, but there was no loud sound that everyone expected, only billowing smoke. It was Mu Wushue's green vines that were quickly being burned by the flame divine runes in the blazing whip. The Wood Spirit clan was not only restrained by the lightning of the Dark Thunder clan, but also by the power of the flames of the Divine Fire clan. Of course, there was no absolute difference in strength between the 10,000 Daos in the world, nor would there be a complete restraint. When any ability was cultivated to the extreme, it would possess world-shocking power, enough to undergo a qualitative change. Take the god-murdering tree realm, for example. If cultivated to the extreme and rooted in the earth, it could absorb the energy of the myriad worlds and exist forever. The ancestor of the Wood Spirit clan had relied on the god-murdering tree realm to kill a divine spirit. Mu Wushue's attainments in the god-murdering tree realm were naturally far from the limit. But Hu Xian's blazing flame divine ability had not been cultivated to the extreme. This was also the reason why Mu Wuxue did not panic when he saw the god-murdering green vine being restrained. Mu Wushue's hands changed seals, and his entire body released a vast green light. His life force soared into the sky, shaking the heavens. The power of those green vines became more and more ferocious, transforming into streaks of green light, shooting out with extreme speed, besieging Hu Xian. Even Hu Xian's blazing whip that attacked the Dragon Soul was blocked by him, allowing the Dragon Soul to focus on dealing with those late-stage calamity stage geniuses. As the most powerful young generation of the Wood Spirit clan, Mu Wuxue was naturally a proud and arrogant person. Since he had already joined forces with Qin Yu and the rest, he naturally would not hide behind the Dragon Soul. Therefore, he took the initiative to face Hu Xian. One-on-one. How dare you? Hu Xian roared in anger, his eyes like two blazing suns, emitting endless divine might. The blazing divine might on his body became even more ferocious, rolling like a volcano erupting. Wherever it passed, countless towering ancient trees were burned to ashes. Even the void was faintly distorted by the heat. Rumble, the two met head-on. Berserk-killing moves emerged one after another, causing the earth to tremble. The scene was like the end of the world, extremely terrifying. Chapter 742. No wonder I dare to say that there aren't many people I fear in the saint rank. The Dragon Soul, who had forcefully injured a late-stage Calamity Realm genius, had already gained the upper hand. In the midst of such an intense life and death battle, he even had the leisure to observe the battle between Mu Wuxue and Hu Xian. This also allowed the Dragon Soul to have a clear understanding of Mu Wushue's strength. Although he could not compare to the previous Honkai, Mu Wushue's strength was indeed a rather tyrannical existence in the late-stage Calamity Realm. Even in a situation where the sacred arts attribute was restrained, he could still fight with Hu Xian until it was hard to determine the victor. Boom! Just at this moment, a vast and mighty aura spread out and suddenly swept out. The Dragon's Soul instantly sensed it, and a look of joy appeared in its eyes. He knew that after the cultivation of the Origin Chi Tide, Qin Yu's cultivation had finally stepped into the Calamity Realm from the perfect Heavenly Wheel Realm. Don't underestimate this breakthrough. Qin Yu originally had the power to fight enemies of a higher realm. Now that his cultivation had officially stepped into the Calamity Realm, it would be difficult to find a match for him in this realm. The origin chi of heaven and earth has begun to dissipate. Dragon Soul, go and cultivate. Qin Yu stood up. A beam of light shot out from his eyes, like two bolts of lightning, causing the void to faintly ripple. All right. When the Dragon's Soul heard this, its figure flashed, and the power of time and space surged as it quietly retreated. He also wanted to use this origin chi tide to raise his cultivation by another level. Kill. Seeing that Qin Yu, who had just stepped into the Calamity Realm, actually dared to be as arrogant as the Dragon Soul and kill him alone. Those late-stage Calamity Realm geniuses who were suppressed by the Dragon Soul's space-time sacred art immediately exploded. Their eyes were filled with monstrous anger, and their killing intent was so condensed that it almost materialized, scraping against one's skin until it hurt. Chi. Qin Yu was not afraid, and faced them head-on. When he rushed out, countless dark beams of light exploded from his body. Every ray of light contained a dreamlike, illusory divine power that was difficult to distinguish between real and fake, causing people to feel as if they would fall into a boundless illusion with a single glance. This was the Umbra Dream Dragon's mystique, the Umbra Thousand Illusion Dao. As Qin Yu's strength increased day by day, the power of this divine ability also became more and more terrifying. In that instant, the several late-stage Calamity Stage prodigies who were charging towards them were all affected and slowed down significantly. Petty Tricks, a sky pride whose entire body seemed to be made of gold, snorted coldly. The golden light on his body suddenly changed, becoming deep and cold. There was a murderous aura moving around, like the weeping of a mountain ghost, making people's hair stand on end. That genius clenched his right hand into a fist. Golden lines covered his fist as he punched out. The dark light beams that blotted out the sky began to shatter one after another, turning into countless specks of light that resembled broken glass as they shot out in all directions. The other geniuses immediately broke free from the illusions and unleashed their own killer moves. Violent origin chi surged like a raging sea, as if it could destroy everything in the world. Its power was extremely terrifying. However, at that moment, Qin Yu's figure had already disappeared before the eyes of those geniuses. There was only a layer of pitch-black light that descended from the sky like a black cloth. All the light was swallowed up by the black light, and one could not even see their own fingers. The Dragon Clan's mystique, the Nine Hells' purgatory. What kind of mystique is this? It has such a terrifying, suppressive power. Their divine souls could not sense anything, and their vision was also blocked. This made the faces of those murderous geniuses change uncontrollably. Their eyes were filled with fear, and their hearts were filled with terror. Qin Yu, who had just made a breakthrough, was even more dangerous than the Dragon Soul that had comprehended the space-time mystique. At the very least, when they were fighting the Dragon Soul, although they were affected by the space-time power, they could still see the Dragon Soul and use their own means to fight back. However, the current Qin Yu was so strong that they could not even touch a shadow. Suddenly, in the dead silence of the darkness, the sound of flesh being pierced through could be heard, and blood splattered everywhere. Of course, this sound could not be heard by the other geniuses. Only the genius whose heart was pierced through and who lowered his head in disbelief recovered some of his hearing. A black spear that flickered with a cold light pierced through the youth's body. Within the black spear, there was a hazy mist surrounding it. It was like the primal chaos energy at the beginning of the world, sealing all the methods of the genius, causing his life force to disappear crazily. Bang! Qin Yu struck out with his palm, and after annihilating his divine soul, he pulled out his spear, and his figure quietly disappeared. Thousand Shadows illusionary method, Nine Nether purgatory, primal chaos killing method, these three Dragon Clan sacred arts, coupled with the power of the primal chaos dragon spear, were already enough to allow Qin Yu to have the strength to kill enemies above his level. If he were to use the 9 secrets of the Warring Dragon, then his fighting strength would be even more terrifying. Although the perception, vision, and hearing of the divine soul were suppressed, the moment that genius was killed by Qin Yu, the other young geniuses, as well as Hu Xian and Mu Wushui, all had a premonition. They who had stepped into the late stage of the calamity stage had already passed through the three disasters of wind, fire, and thunder. They had a very strong premonition toward disasters and life and death. This caused Hu Xian's face to darken, and his killing intent to kill even more. Mu Wushui, on the other hand, was shocked. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul had just switched places, and there was already a late-stage calamity stage existence that had fallen. No wonder Qin Yu was the leader of the three of them. Puqi, although they had a premonition, those geniuses of the late-stage calamity stage were still unable to withstand Qin Yu's attack. After a few breaths of time, another two geniuses were directly killed by Qin Yu. Their blood scattered in the air, and their corpses were swept away by the waves of origin Qi. After another 10 breaths of time, along with a loud dragon roar, the three geniuses who had gathered together with a secret technique were instantly killed. They, who had already passed through the three disasters of wind, fire, and thunder, did not even have the slightest chance of resisting Qin Yu, who had used the 9 secrets of the Warring Dragon. Today, none of you will live. Hu Xian sensed and let out an explosive roar. His voice shook the heavens, causing the surrounding ancient trees to tremble and leaves to fly wildly. Those were the geniuses of the various clans that he had recruited with great difficulty. They were meant to be of great use to him, but now they were all killed. This caused Hu Xian to go crazy. He used the secret technique of the Divine Fire Clan. The raging flame armor on his body split open, and one after another flame, divine runes floated out. They were ancient and mysterious, emitting an earth-shattering might. That was a might that did not belong to this world. It caused the laws of heaven and earth in this sacred world to tremble slightly, as if they had been provoked and were about to be punished by the gods. This is the primordial divine technique unique to the Divine Fire Clan, the Fire God's ancient talisman. When Mu Wuxie, who was fighting fiercely with Hu Xian, saw the flame divine runes, his expression could not help but change. No wonder you were able to subdue those geniuses. So you have grasped such a divine technique. Prepare to die. Seeing Mu Wushui's expression change, Hu Xian's face revealed a sinister and cruel expression. He rubbed his hands together, and the flame divine runes fused together, turning into an ancient flame seal. Chapter 743. The ancient flame seal was only the size of a palm. It was sparkling and translucent like a ruby, emitting a pleasing fluorescent light. Within the ancient seal, there was a ball of flames that submitted. If one looked carefully, they would be able to see that within the ball of flames, there was a flame giant that was sealed by thousands of flame divine chains, roaring silently towards the sky. With just a glance, one could tell what kind of destructive power was contained within the flame giant. "Unseal!" Hu Xian shouted as he clapped his hands. Blood from his palms fused into the ancient flame seal, causing the flame divine chains within the ancient flame seal to shatter one after another. In the next moment, a golden flame that was as vast as the galaxy erupted from Hu Xian's palm. In an instant, the god-slaying tree realm that Mu Wushui had created was instantly shattered into dust, turning into a cloud of smoke that soared into the sky, blocking one's line of sight. Mu Wushui was also affected and was sent flying dozens of feet away. Although he was not injured, he looked at Hu Xian with a serious expression. One could clearly see that on Hu Xian's body, a towering and majestic flame giant that was as big as a mountain appeared. The flame giant wore a flame crown on its head and a 9-dragon divine robe. It was extremely majestic, and when it raised its hands and feet, it emitted the aura of an emperor. It was as if an ancient emperor from ancient times had awakened in the distant future with boundless might and was about to rule the world once again. Not only did he cultivate the fire god's ancient talisman, he can also awaken a trace of the will of the fire god. Mu Wushui's gaze became more and more serious. The strength of this Hu Xian was far beyond his expectations. Rumor had it that the ancestor of the Divine Fire Clan had obtained a heaven-defying opportunity in the past and awakened the soul of a fire god from ancient times, thus obtaining the immortal supreme inheritance. The Divine Fire Clan had also risen to prominence in the Void Zone because of this. In the long history of the Divine Fire Clan, they had suffered several calamities of extermination, but they had relied on the soul of the fire god to safely survive. Now, the fire god's ancient talisman that Hu Xian had used actually contained a trace of the soul of the fire god. This kind of potential was truly shocking. Looks like I can't hide my strength anymore. Although Mu Wushui's expression was grave and fearful, he was not afraid to fight. His true trump card was not the god-slaying tree realm. He just did not expect that he would be forced to use it so quickly. I'll deal with this person. At this moment, a calm voice sounded. It was Qinyu. Mu Wushui looked over in astonishment. Not only did he hear a relaxed tone in Qinyu's voice, he even seemed to be eager to give a try. With that, Qinyu, who had a smile on his face, ignored Mu Wushui and walked towards Hu Xian with large strides. The might of the flame giant behind Hu Xian made the golden flame heaven-burning dragon in the primal chaos dragon realm extremely excited. That was an emotion that would only appear when one saw an excellent tonic. Therefore, Qinyu determined that there must be a treasure that was extremely beneficial to the golden flame heaven-burning dragon hidden within the flame giant's body. After all, it was extremely difficult for the dragons in the chaotic dragon realm to increase their cultivation. Other than refining the origin blood essence of the dragon clan, only spiritual treasures of heaven and earth of the same attribute could help them make a breakthrough in their cultivation. It was precisely because of this that even though they had left the heavenly region, the cultivation of the golden flame heaven-burning dragon and the purple thunder divine firmament dragon still increased extremely slowly. Now that there was a treasure that could allow the golden flame heaven-burning dragon to raise its cultivation, Qinyu naturally would not let it go. When he stepped out, golden flames also surrounded Qinyu's body. Although compared to the monstrous divine might emitted by the flame giant, the golden flame heaven-burning fire on Qinyu's body seemed to be completely lacking. However, the moment the golden flame heaven-burning fire appeared, the flame giant seemed to have sensed something, and its two lake-like eyes suddenly looked towards Qinyu. This scene caused many of the geniuses who were watching the battle from afar as the god-slaying tree realm was incinerated couldn't help but exclaim. That flame giant actually contained a trace of will. Could it be that an ancient god had descended? However, Qinyu was not afraid at all. Using the hurricane of origin Qi, he rose into the air step by step and was on par with the flame giant. The chaotic dragon spear in his hand trembled slightly, as if it was a peerless weapon that had been unsealed, as if it wanted to slaughter the world again. The flame giant in front of him that contained a trace of the ancient gods was just a vengeful spirit that was about to be killed. A firefly dares to compete with the sun and moon? You overestimate yourself. Hu Xian merged into the flame giant and said coldly, indifferent and arrogant. He was originally a famous genius in the Void Zone, and now that he had cultivated this supreme divine technique, when he left this sacred world, his name would definitely shake the Void Zone. The top of the prodigy of war list that no one had challenged for dozens of years would also be his. Even the entire Void Zone, and even the heavens outside the Void Zone, would be trampled under his feet. This was because he had awakened the inheritance of an ancient god of fire and had a unique innate advantage. He was a natural-born king and would ascend to the deity realm and be invincible in the world. Boom! The flame giant suddenly moved and threw out a huge flaming fist. The fist wind was like thunder, deafening and gorgeous, like a dazzling sun falling. However, Qinyu, who was facing the flame giant's attack, only felt an overwhelming ferocious aura fill the air, as if a peerless ferocious beast had been released from its cage, leaving him with no way to escape. Qinyu was not afraid at all. He kicked in the air and rushed out with the help of the wind. Of course, he was not careless. No matter what, This flame giant contained a trace of the ancient god of fire's will. Therefore, Qin Yu's entire body was filled with visible azure dragon tattoos. Each dragon tattoo was exquisite and beautiful, like a lifelike Shanran that was about to be revived. The aura that Qin Yu emitted also rose crazily at a shocking speed, sweeping through the world and suppressing all living things. Vaguely, a multicolored light shot into the sky above Qin Yu's head, creating a strange phenomenon of dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. As his cultivation base advanced to the heavenly calamity realm, Qin Yu clearly felt that the power of the azure dragon battle the heavens was becoming more and more terrifying. How terrifying! What kind of secret art is that? How can it be so powerful? Mu Wuxue, who had retreated to watch the battle, was shocked when he saw the strange phenomenon on Qin Yu's body. The aura that Qin Yu emitted now was actually comparable to that of the flame giant. The result was not out of Mu Wuxue's expectations. Facing the flame giant's Armageddon fist, Qin Yu stabbed out with his spear. Chaotic dragon qi condensed at the tip of the spear and emitted a mysterious and terrifying fluctuation. Qin Yu, who had stabbed out with his spear, was like an ant trying to shake a tree in front of the flame giant. The two were not on the same level at all. However, when the two of them collided, a scene that was out of everyone's expectations appeared. Qin Yu, who was holding the spear, blocked the destructive power of the flame giant. At the place where the two collided, sparks flew in all directions, and the void became distorted. That was because the power had expanded to the extreme, causing the void to be unable to withstand it. Qin Yu had actually blocked the flame giant's attack. Chapter 744. As the Chaos Dragon Spear and the giant flaming fist collided, the violent Tian Yuan interweaved with each other and turned into a destructive shockwave that swept out in all directions. Even the tornado-like Yuan energy tide that engulfed the land was faintly broken apart. The power of the battle between the two was terrifying. So strong, such terrifying battle prowess is already comparable to that of a perfected Calamity Stage expert. Which immortal force's successor is that person? He has just stepped into the Calamity Stage, but he actually has such shocking battle strength. This is too terrifying. If he grows up, he will definitely become an invincible king in the Void Zone. The surrounding geniuses were extremely shocked and had no choice but to retreat. Even though they had all stepped into the Calamity Stage, they did not dare to be involved. The battle strength that Qin Yu and Hu Xian had unleashed was enough to enter the Void Zone prodigy list. Of course, what shocked them even more was naturally Qin Yu. After all, compared to Hu Xian's late-stage Calamity Stage cultivation, Qin Yu had just stepped into the Calamity Stage. Such peerless potential made them exclaim in admiration. Now, those who could still stand in this origin chi tide and cultivate naturally had extraordinary combat strength. However, in front of Qin Yu, they seemed to be ashamed of their inferiority. No matter how heaven-defying your talent is, you will bleed here today. Hu Xian snorted coldly. His killing intent grew stronger, and there was a sense of urgency in his eyes. Qin Yu's talent made him, who had comprehended the fire god's inheritance, feel a strong sense of fear and jealousy. Fire god Burning Sky Seal, Hu Xian shouted in a low voice. Mysterious flame patterns appeared on his skin, making the blood in his entire body seem to be burning. His blood qi was like the sea, and he was like an ancient god with monstrous power. He was sacrificing his own blood essence to support the flame giant's divine power. This was the invincible secret technique that the Divine Fire Clan had inherited from the fire god. This secret technique was too terrifying. The moment his blood essence burned, the flame giant roared towards the sky. The sound wave swept out like a wave, shaking the towering mountains as if the end of the world had arrived. One could clearly see that the crown on the flame giant's head and the divine robe on its body were becoming more and more solid. The vast divine power was also as heavy as a mountain. It was as if a god was really awakening. Not good. Retreat. Those prodigies who had retreated far away to watch the battle felt their hair stand on end at this moment. They didn't have time to think and immediately rushed out of the Yuan Qi torrent. The power emitted by the flaming giant was too shocking. They would rather give up the opportunity of a Yuan Qi tide than be affected by it. Mu Wushui's expression became increasingly solemn, but he still frowned and fled. His hands kept changing seals. Between the seals, there was a glimmer of light. An ancient and mysterious rune was condensed in the glimmer of light. There was a faint ancient sound of the great Tao, as if a god was singing. The runes became increasingly condensed. Although it was impossible to clearly see what sort of ancient characters they were, a boundless vitality as strong as the sea gushed out, covering Mu Wushui. The dragon soul and dragon abyss that were cultivating were also covered by the vast vitality that was visible to the naked eye. This was Mu Wushui's trump card. It was also the reason why he dared to compete for the treasures of the Saint's world. Whoosh! Seeing that, Qin Yu bent his legs, and like a spring, he suddenly soared into the sky. He was as fast as a beam of light, and no one could see his figure. His roar was like thunder, shaking all living things. On the primal chaos dragon spear in his hand, streaks of primal chaos dragon runes appeared. At the tip of the spear, a hazy mist surged, like the primal chaos chi at the beginning of the world, mysterious and unfathomable. Die! Hu Xian roared angrily, the blood essence in his body burning crazily, vowing to kill Qin Yu in one strike. The flaming giant also roared and threw out another punch. Rolling flames erupted like a volcano, and millions of molten lava swept through the void as if it wanted to burn everything. Be careful, that's the origin ancient rune of the fire god. In the distance, Mu Wushui, whose body was surging with boundless vitality and even emitted a resplendent green light, could not help but warn him. This was because he saw a mysterious and extraordinary flame rune condensing on the flaming giant's lake-like fist. That rune was too extraordinary. Just by looking at it, one's mind could not help but sink into it. There was an ancient and vicissitude aura flowing about, as if a god was watching them. Has the power of origin been activated? That's just right. Not only was Qin Yu not afraid, he even revealed a smile on his face. He did not dodge at all and faced it head-on. When the flaming giant condensed the flame rune, the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon became even more excited. It even seemed that it could not wait and wanted to rush out of the primal chaos dragon realm. Rumble. Both of them used their invincible killing moves and collided once again. A loud sound that shook the world resounded once again. This time, the destructive storm that erupted from the two even shook the heavens and the earth. It was like a flash flood, like a tsunami sweeping through. Even the origin energy was directly cut in half. Boom! After a moment of stalemate, the giant flaming fist carried an unstoppable force. Like an ancient giant, the flaming fist burned the air and tore the sky apart as it suddenly smashed down. After the earth trembled violently, a bottomless pitch-black crater was blasted out. Numerous abyss-like cracks spread out, and a cold energy rolled out. Many of the geniuses who were already far away from the origin energy could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. Such terrifying destructive power. Was it really a battle at the Calamity stage? This guy is even stronger than Hong Kai. Mu Wushui was shocked. The origin energy was broken, and he was also affected. The blood in his body was tumbling, and his Tian Yuan was faintly unstable. Fortunately, he had used his trump card in advance. The green light that surged like a fog contained endless pure life force that entered his body, causing his blood to quickly recover. In addition, the dragon soul, who was originally cultivating, also made a move. He kept the dragon abyss into the primal chaos dragon realm. His hands formed a seal, and countless rays of light bloomed. Each ray of light contained the supreme power of time and space, enough to affect the heavens and earth. With such power, I'm afraid your elder brother is in trouble, Mu Wuxue whispered. He took a step forward, and his body bloomed with green light as he prepared to make a move. This was because he could no longer sense Qin Yu's aura. Only the flaming giant that had smashed the earth with a punch was emitting a monstrous, ferocious aura that shook the 9 heavens. Just watch. The dragon's soul chuckled. There was no trace of worry on his face. Although he could not sense Qin Yu's aura, he knew that Qin Yu was safe and sound right now, and did not need their help at all. An ant that overestimates his own abilities. Inside the flaming giant, Hu Xian, who was burning his blood essence, sensed for a moment before laughing coldly. Then, he looked at Mu Wuxue and the dragon soul. Next, it's your turn. Since he could no longer sense Qin Yu's aura, he naturally believed that Qin Yu's soul had already dissipated and his body had disappeared. Hu Xian had absolute confidence in the power of this divine technique. After all, this was a divine ability personally passed down by a god, and it had a supreme, killing power. Crack! However, just as Hu Xian was about to attack Mu Wuxue and the dragon soul, a clear cracking sound faintly came from the deep pit. Chapter 745. He actually didn't die? How is that possible? Hu Xian immediately sensed it as well. His eyes that were flickering with a vicious light suddenly shrank as he looked in disbelief at the huge pitch-black pit that was emitting rolling cold air. That was a shocking phenomenon that would only appear when earth veins that were tens of thousands of miles deep underground were destroyed. Under such a terrifying attack, how could Qin Yu, who had just entered the calamity stage, survive? Chi. When Hu Xian was shocked, the shocking cold qi that was rolling out, causing people to feel a bone-chilling cold, instantly turned into a rolling white mist, and replacing it was a terrifying heat wave that was enough to boil mountains and burn seas. The heat wave was vast and terrifying, as if an ancient golden crow that had lived since the mythological era had awakened, as if it wanted to burn everything in the world. Immediately after, a huge ball of flame rose into the sky. With a huge pitch-black pit as the center, the ground immediately became charred black. This kind of power is even more terrifying than Hu Xian's. Mu Wuxue, who was originally prepared to attack, looked at the fireball in shock. Within the blazing fireball, there was an indescribable aura being emitted. It was as if a god or demon was enraged. Even he, who was exuding a vigorous life force and was extremely difficult to kill, felt his heart palpitate with unease. If that fireball were to attack, Mu Wuxue did not have absolute confidence that he would be able to withstand it. It's about time to end it. Amidst the flames, Qin Yu stepped on the surging flames. Countless mysterious fire patterns surrounded his body, making him look noble and intimidating. At this moment, it was as if Qin Yu was the true god of fire. Even the flaming giant on Hu Xian's body could not compare to him. You do have some ability. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. However, next time, you won't be so lucky. Seeing Qin Yu, whose expression was calm and even carried contempt, Hu Xian's anger soared to the heavens. His killing intent boiled, and even his eyes started to burn. His entire aura became even stronger. Without any unnecessary words, Hu Xian turned into a ray of fiery light, and as fast as lightning, pounced toward Qin Yu at an extremely fast speed. When he rushed out, the gigantic flame giant quickly merged into Hu Xian's body. This caused Hu Xian, whose entire body was burning, to become even more ferocious and terrifying. Wherever he passed, even the air would faintly boil. Die! Hu Xian threw a punch in the air, causing the flames to explode, transforming into streaks of fiery light that flew in all directions. The flames were extremely bright and dazzling. They were like flaming diamonds, shocking everyone to the core. This attack was incomparably terrifying and contained boundless killing intent. Every ray of fire was enough to easily annihilate a prodigy in the advanced stage of Calamity Realm. This was also Hu Xian's strongest move. He had sacrificed a third of his blood essence and merged the will of the fire god with his own body to unleash a world-shaking attack. Hu Xian had once relied on this move to injure an Empyrean realm transcendent elder powerhouse in the Divine Fire clan. Obviously, the might that Qin Yu was emitting right now caused Hu Xian to feel a strong sense of danger. He wanted to use his strongest killing technique to suppress him. It ends here. The space-time force around the dragon's soul retracted, and its body flashed, escaping into the Yuan Qi tide that had been cut in half. Although much of the Yuan Qi tide had dissipated, the remaining Yuan Qi of heaven and earth was still incomparably majestic. To the dragon's soul, this was an excellent opportunity to raise its cultivation. As for the battle between Qin Yu and Hu Xian, the dragon's soul had already seen the result. Devour. Sure enough, Qin Yu drew a flaming Taiji diagram in front of him with both hands. Within the Taiji diagram, the yin and yang divine fish flowed, bringing out a yin and yang black hole. It was deep and dark, and no one knew where it led to. Qin Yu's figure flickered like an ancient rock, spreading his wings and flying into the sky, filled with ferocity, and appeared in front of Hu Xian, who was attacking. The raging black light flashed, and Hu Xian, who was emitting a might that could pierce through the heavens and earth, as if he was possessed by a fire god, was directly swallowed by the yin and yang divine fish in the flaming Taiji diagram into the black hole, and immediately disappeared without a trace. In an instant, the originally heaven-shocking battle ended just like that. Whether it was the many heaven's chosen rankers who were watching from afar, or Mu Wuxue who was closer, they were all dumbfounded and flabbergasted. They never thought that Hu Xian, whose power was terrifying to such an extent, would actually be suppressed by Qin Yu so easily. Even until the last moment, they did not see clearly what had happened at the last moment that caused the battle to end in an instant. However, such an unknown and mysterious method caused everyone to become even more fearful of Qin Yu. Many people rejoiced in their hearts that they did not go and provoke Qin Yu and the others. Otherwise, they would be the ones dead now. As the great battle ended, the origin Qi tide also collapsed. The many heavens chosen rankers who were watching from afar also dispersed in twos and threes. In the air, the flames around Qin Yu dissipated and landed. Strictly speaking, the flames around his body did not dissipate, but drilled into the pores of his body and disappeared. After landing on the ground, Qin Yu immediately sat down cross-legged, and his mind entered his body. Ong, ong, ong. It emitted a hazy aura of chaos, as if it was the primal chaos dragon realm when the heavens and earth were first created. Waves after waves of soul-shaking dragon roars resounded through the 9 heavens. In the void of the primal chaos dragon realm, a dragon clan that covered the sky and covered the sun was circling and dancing. It was the golden flame heaven-burning dragon. In the center of the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon, there was a huge flame shadow. Divine chains that emitted a mysterious and boundless aura pierced through the flame shadow and wrapped around it, sealing it. Qin Yu descended and appeared above the head of the golden flame heaven-burning dragon. His gaze was indifferent as he looked to Hu Xian, who was still fighting like a trapped beast. You can actually devour and refine the fire god's soul. Who the hell are you? Within the huge flame shadow, Hu Xian, whose hands were forming seals and whose entire body was covered in flame divine runes, looked at Qin Yu with extreme unwillingness in his eyes. Compared to the outside world, the heavens' chosen rankers who did not know anything, he had finally figured out the reason for his defeat. Earlier, when he had used the fire god's ancient talisman and used the secret killing technique, Qin Yu had already devoured the origin energy of the fire god's soul and even refined it for his own use. This was also the reason why he was devoured the moment he came into contact with the flame Taiji diagram, because his killing move was activated with the power of the fire god's soul as the core. However, the origin energy of the fire god's soul had been devoured by Qin Yu. If he were to fight with Qin Yu again, he would naturally be restrained to death. This also caused Hu Xian to be shocked and unwilling, because even in the Divine Fire Clan, there were only a few monsters who could awaken the Fire God soul. How did Qin Yu do it? Not only did he devour the origin energy of the Fire God's soul, he even refined it. If he had noticed it earlier, he definitely wouldn't have fallen to such a state. You should know why I spared your life. If you don't want your soul to dissipate, then tell me the secret of communicating with the Fire God's soul. Qin Yu ignored Hu Xian and spoke indifferently. There was a reason why he did not kill Hu Xian directly. Chapter 746. Even if my soul is destroyed, you can forget about getting any information from me. Hu Xian snorted coldly. He was not surprised. Obviously, he had already guessed it. Ever since they had obtained the soul of the ancient fire god, the Divine Fire Clan had been targeted by the giants in the Void Zone. After all, there were very few forces that would not be tempted by the soul of a true fire god, even in the outside world. However, until now, the soul of the ancient fire god had never been obtained by anyone other than the Divine Fire Clan. From this, it could be seen that the Divine Fire Clan had kept the secret of the ancient fire god's soul a secret. Even if they kidnapped the core members of the Divine Fire Clan, it was impossible to obtain the secret of the ancient fire god's soul. If that's the case, then I can only see for myself. Qin Yu was indifferent. Of course, he knew that it was impossible to make Hu Xian reveal the secret of the ancient fire god's soul with just words. But now, Hu Xian had completely fallen into his hands. Whether he lived or died, it was naturally all under his control. Therefore, Qin Yu did not waste any time and directly used a secret technique. Buzz, buzz. The divine chains that emitted a vast and mysterious aura trembled slightly, and mysterious divine runes appeared on them. If it was magnified thousands of times, one would be able to see that the tiny divine runes were formed from ancient divine characters and ancient drawings of birds, beasts, fish, and insects. It was simple and natural. There was an aura that did not belong to this era. It was as if it was the ancient text used by the gods in the ancient times. Immediately, a shrill and violent howl came from Hu Xian's mouth and resounded throughout the chaotic dragon realm. The divine technique that Qin Yu used was obtained from the inheritance of immortal King Zhanlong. This was a skill that specifically targeted one's soul origin. The pain one had to endure was far from comparable to the physical pain of being sliced into 1,000 pieces. When Hu Xian's spirit was being tortured, specks of flame light also floated out continuously. It was like a fountain erupting again and again, and like a meteor shower breaking through the sky. It was endless. Each of those specks of flame light was crystal clear like a ruby. There were raging flames rolling inside, emitting a pleasing and dazzling brilliance. It was the supreme essence that Qin Yu refined by fusing Hu Xian's spirit origin and blood essence into the flame giant. Roar! The golden flame heaven incinerating dragon was excited. Its dragon roar became even louder as its entire body burned with golden flames. Mysterious dragon runes appeared on the glittering dragon scales. Each dragon rune was constantly absorbing the fiery light spots floating in the void. He could clearly sense that the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon's aura was growing stronger and stronger. The mysterious dragon tattoos on the dragon scales were also changing quietly, showing signs of turning into the word dragon. Looking at Hu Xian, who was enduring the pain of having his soul refined but was still cursing and not prepared to speak, Qin Yu's consciousness left the primal chaos dragon realm. From the looks of it, for a short period of time, Hu Xian would not speak. Qin Yu did not have much time to stay here and watch. Of course, if Hu Xian still did not speak before leaving the sacred realm, then Qin Yu would have no choice but to make him completely lose his soul. Because within Hu Xian's divine soul, there was an extremely ancient and complicated flame seal. Judging from the aura, it was most likely obtained from the inheritance of the ancient fire god's soul. This was also the reason why Qin Yu could not forcefully refine it and search its memories. The dragon soul is about to break through. Qin stood up and raised his head to look at the dragon soul in the void. The rich heaven and earth yuan qi that originally filled the void had been completely swallowed and refined by the dragon soul. The cultivation fluctuations that the dragon soul was emitting now had reached the limit of the middle stage of the calamity realm. From the looks of it, there would not be any accidents if he wanted to break through to the middle stage of the calamity realm. Brother Qin, after this battle, you can no longer keep a low profile like before. Mu Wushui, whose body was still flickering with a bright green light and exuding a vigorous vitality, walked over and cupped his fists at Qin with a smile. Even a powerful and terrifying genius like Hu Xian was suppressed by Qin. Looking at the younger generation of the sacred world, there was probably no one who was a match for Qin. Qin, who had been unknown in the past, would definitely become famous in the Void Zone and shake the various races because of this battle. Anyone who had seen this battle would have to admit that Qin was definitely qualified to be a king among the younger generation. He was strong enough to compete with those monstrous geniuses who ranked high on the Void Zone War Prodigy list. It should be known that those monstrous geniuses were all destined to become famous in the Void Zone in the future, and even become peerless experts who would conquer various realms. This had been proven in the long history of the Void Zone. Those almighty experts who ruled the Void Zone were all young kings on the Void Zone War Prodigy list when they were young. It's okay. Qin did not care about whether his reputation would spread or not. The more famous he was, the better it would be for him. At the very least, it would be much more convenient for him to inquire about the dragon race. Moreover, Qin now needed a relatively safe environment to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. When his cultivation was sufficient, he would kill his way back to the fire domain, completely refine the dragon race, and find the Fire Emperor's inheritance. After that, he would go to save his master and find Fairy Shualon. Boom! About 4 hours later, the dragon's soul officially broke through. Its mighty aura swept through the clouds and shook the heavens and the earth, as if a great calamity had appeared. As its cultivation base broke through, the immortal ancient Shenron bloodline in the dragon soul also awakened more and more. Its dragon aura also became more powerful and oppressive. Although it did not emit any dragon aura, the terrifying bloodline pressure was clearly felt by Mu Wushui, who was from the Wood Spirit clan. Such a terrifying bloodline pressure made Mu Wushui more and more curious about the origins of Qin and the dragon soul. Before this, he had never heard of such an anomaly among the rogue cultivators. After their cultivations all reached breakthroughs, Qin and the other two also left this devastated land and continued to search for the treasures of the sacred realm. As for Long Yuan, his battle strength was still too weak, so he returned to the chaotic dragon realm to cultivate. This time, after devouring and refining the vast yuan qi of heaven and earth, Long Yuan also gained a lot and showed signs of a breakthrough. Rumble. 7 days later, Qin and the other two carefully searched the land recorded on the two map fragments. They suddenly raised their heads and looked at a towering mountain. The mountain reached into the clouds and was shrouded in rolling clouds, making it impossible to see the peak of the mountain. However, at this moment, a huge beam of light that seemed to be a mixture of black and white shot into the sky, straight into the nine heavens. An extremely terrifying wave of air erupted like a flood, sweeping out like a tsunami. It was terrifying beyond compare and shook the surroundings. It actually appeared directly. The eyes of Qin and Mu Wushui lit up. When a huge beam of black and white light shot into the sky, the ancient map fragments in their hands trembled gently and gave off a mysterious ripple. It actually seemed to be resonating with the huge mountain. Chapter 747. Someone's already on the mountain. The three of them immediately charged towards the towering mountain peak. When they reached the mountainside, the dragon soul was the first to sense it. Sure enough, the treasures of the sacred world have been lured out by force. Mu Wuxue looked up at the flickering black and white light in the sky and immediately understood what was going on. It was probably the other people who had obtained the incomplete treasure map. Seeing that the time for the sacred world to close had come, they wanted to open it by force. There were two reasons for doing so. First, it might attract other people with the treasure map. Second, they didn't want to miss the opportunity. They wanted to use brute force to lure out the treasures and obtain the treasures. Sure enough, when Qin Yu and the other two rushed to the top of the mountain peak, more than a dozen powerful experts with terrifying auras had already gathered there. In front of them was an ancient grand formation that was deeply rooted in the ground, devouring the endless power of the earth and mountain ranges. The runes floating on the ancient formation were immortal characters that exuded an ancient aura. They were both mysterious and astonishing, and contained an unpredictable aura. At the center of the ancient grand formation was a 5-level altar that was as white as jade and flickered with holy white light. However, at the center of the 5-level altar was a black mist that was as dense as devil chi. The black and white light intersected, forming the black and white light in the sky. As for the frightening waves of air that reached the clouds and shook the surrounding wilderness, they spread out along with the pitch-black fog at the center of the altar. It could be imagined that if it wasn't for the double suppression of the 5-level altar and the ancient grand formation, the strength of the waves of air that seeped out would be far from this level. Someone's here already? Did they appear in this area by chance? Or do they have the incomplete treasure map with them? The dozen or so people instantly discovered the auras of Qin Yu and the other two, and looked over. The chaotic world demonic ape race, the three-eyed crimson fox race, the sky-splitting wind wolf race, the primordial dragon lion race. Mu Wuxue also looked at the dozen or so people. When he saw their origins, he couldn't help but be shocked. The dozen or so people who had gathered here were all from famous clans in the Void Domain. They weren't any weaker than the Dark Thunder race, the Divine Flame race, or the other powerful forces. The strength of these chosen ones from the major clans couldn't be underestimated. All of them had great reputations among the younger generation in the Void Domain. Fortunately, with Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul around, Mu Wuxue was much more confident. After all, no matter how strong these Heaven's Chosen rankers were, it was impossible for them to be inferior to Hong Kai and Hu Xian. He Xiong, for these three fellows to be able to arrive so quickly, they most likely possess an ancient map of the treasure hoard. Didn't you want to obtain an advanced slot to enter the treasure hoard? Now is your chance. Before Qin Yu and the other two could speak, a young man with green eyes and a cold, baleful aura glared at Qin Yu and the other two. Although his cultivation was only at the late stage of the heavenly calamity realm, he did not place Mu Wuxue, who was also at the late stage of the heavenly calamity realm, in his eyes at all. Arrogantly and disdainfully, he looked down on the three of them. Not only were the young man's eyes green, but they were also vertical like the eyes of a snake. There was no warmth in them, and they were cold and terrifying. This young man's true body was an ancient heavenly azure python. Rumor had it that his ancestor was the heaven-devouring demonic python of the mythological era, and that he had the potential to transform into a true dragon. In a void domain, where there were many clans, the ancient heavenly azure python clan was also a famous colossus with a long history and unfathomable strength. It's them. The young chosen one, called He Xiong, was a 3-meter-tall Yao male covered in thick black fur. He was a powerful chosen, one of the Black Blood Bear clan. He was born with invincible divine strength and could easily smash mountains and block rivers when he was young. It could be said that he was extraordinarily talented. But now, when the Black Blood Bear clan saw Qin Yu and the other two, the intense fear in his eyes couldn't be concealed at all. It was a fear that came from the bottom of his heart. The Black Blood Bear clan had personally witnessed how terrifying Qin Yu's battle prowess was in the Origin Chi Tide battle a few days ago. Even someone as strong as Hu Xian of the Divine Flame clan had died at Qin Yu's hands. Naturally, he didn't dare to provoke him. He Xiong actually admitted defeat Looks like a few tough ones have come. One of them is the young patriarch of the Wood Spirit clan. I heard that he's very low-key, but his battle prowess is very strong. It's said that he has a chance of making it to the prodigy of War List in the future. As for the other two, they're very unfamiliar. If they're really capable, let's join forces. The fear in the Black Bloodbear clan's eyes was immediately noticed by the other young chosen ones. The reason why they were gathered here was because 5 of them had obtained the ancient map fragments. However, the last 2 ancient map fragments had yet to appear. Therefore, the 5 of them had joined forces to recruit other powerful chosen ones, preparing to forcibly draw out the treasures of the sacred world and divide the opportunities. If Qin Yu and the other 2 were strong enough to be on par with He Xiong, then even without the ancient incomplete map, they could still accept Qin Yu and the other 2 to increase their chances. He's the one I mentioned before, the one who killed Hu Xian of the Divine Flame clan. If they're willing to join forces, it's best not to provoke them. After a while, the altar in He Xiong's eyes gradually disappeared, and he sent a message to the ancient heavenly azure python and the other powerful chosen ones. Oh, Hu Xian died in his hands. Although Hu Xian isn't the top of the younger generation, he's quite famous. He Xiong even said that he had comprehended the inheritance of the fire god's soul. His strength is probably far greater than before. No wonder He Xiong is so afraid. After the chosen ones heard this, they began to discuss and send voice transmissions. Although they hadn't seen the battle between Qin Yu and Hu Xian, they had long heard of the ancient fire god soul of the Divine Flame clan. Even they, who had extraordinary origins, didn't dare to underestimate the genius of the Divine Flame clan who had comprehended the ancient fire god soul. Since Qin Yu had the strength to kill Hu Xian, then there was no need to say more about his battle strength. The 3 of you are here for the treasures of the sacred world, right? At this moment, a soft voice sounded. The person who spoke was a young girl. Her hair hung down, her eyes were clear, and her teeth were snow white. She was pure and beautiful. The young girl's facial features were exquisite, and she seemed to be only 15 or 16 years old. However, she was tall and had graceful curves. She walked over with light steps. Her legs were straight and slender, and her waist was small. Her full breast trembled slightly. Her pure temperament carried a charm that could make people lose themselves. Although she didn't deliberately emit it, it still made people feel like they were falling for her. This woman is the holy maiden of the 3-eyed Crimson Fox clan, Qin Yuqing. She's born with a natural charm. You have to be careful when you come into contact with her. If you're not careful, you might be charmed by her. Mu Wushui transmitted his voice. He was rather solemn. His eyes flickered with divine light, blocking all external forces as he looked at the 3-eyed Crimson Fox clan woman solemnly. Mu Wushui had seen Qin Yuqing's shocking charm technique with his own eyes. Just by looking back and smiling, she could make countless experts fall for her. Her talent was extremely terrifying. Other than the treasures of the sacred world, there shouldn't be any other reason for us to come. Qin Yu said indifferently. Compared to Mu Wushui's solemnity, he was much more indifferent. Not only Qin Yu, even the dragon soul wasn't affected by Qin Yuqing's charms at all. It looked on calmly. Of the 2 of them, one had received the power of an immortal king, and the other had awakened the bloodline of the immortal ancient Shenron. This Qin Yuqing's charm technique really didn't have much effect on them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.